Part 40. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 391. Zhang Shu felt that his father was crazy. Nanshan Group cannot be missed in its entire structure, and it is also the most important. He didn't know how much wealth his father had. But it is definitely an unimaginable number. The current richest man in the world is Gu Dongsheng, with a market value of 2 trillion Chinese coins. After all, the Chinese currency has been depreciating over the years. The purpose of depreciation is to resolve domestic debt on the one hand, and to supply high-quality products to the world to facilitate exports. To put it bluntly, the devaluation of Huaxia's currency is a shameless act, but no one can stop it. They can only watch as Huaxia resolves all its debts and seizes wealth from all over the world. Blind devaluation is not possible. This kind of rhythmic devaluation is very scary. The global industry is basically dying at the pace of China. On the domestic rich list, there are 6 or 7 people worth more than 1 trillion yuan, and Gu Dongsheng is in the absolute lead with 2 trillion yuan. Zhang Shu knew very well the source of Uncle Gu's wealth, which was that he exchanged foreign industries with his father for 5% of Nanshan Group's shares. Although Nanshan Group was not listed, after excluding debts, its assets still amounted to tens of trillions. And how much money does his father have? The Nanshan Group is definitely still in his hands, but he has dispersed it. Qingtian Group is also in his hands. Although Qingtian Capital has been divested, who dares to say that it has nothing to do with him? There is also money capital, and his shadow is also behind it. Every year on New Year's Day, among those people gathered at home, which one is not a big shot? For example, Ho Wenbin is not only the spokesperson of Nanshan Group, he is also building civilized cities around the world, and his model is Qinghe County. Because of these projects, they have a lot of resources at their disposal. Hotels, tourism, and catering consumption. Basically they get to decide whether a city's lunch is carrots or potatoes. If you think about it a little deeper, they have secretly mastered the pricing power of a variety of products. The benefits of this are very terrifying. For example, Gaoming in the village has only opened 33 Dashan supermarkets in the world, but each supermarket has a daily turnover of more than 100 million, and more than 30 supermarkets receive close to 1 million customers every day. The hospital that He Jianchuan is responsible for currently has a presence across the country, and has promoted the listing of more than a dozen pharmaceutical and medical device-related companies. Aunt Wang Qi, who can usually only be seen on the second day of the Lunar New Year, is also the mother-in-law of his younger brother Li Jingcheng. Her husband has been the village chief for 4 years. He is not even 50 yet, so he will most likely continue to make progress around the age of 50. Further up, there is the god of wealth. It is inconvenient for people to come here, but Aunt Wang Qi stays here for several days every year after she comes here on the second day of the Lunar New Year. Zhang Shu has been paying attention to this matter in the past 2 years. He knew very well what his father's trump card was, and that was the Nanshan Group. Qingtian Group as a whole still focuses on finance. Even if Qingtian Capital is divested, there will not be much difference. The ultimate goal is to integrate the supply chain and provide leverage resources for the supply chain links. In his opinion, the only useless person around his father is Yu Yu. However, Yu Yu's status is very special. Although he doesn't care much about Qingtian Group's affairs now, he still has the status of the boss, with an annual salary of more than 1 billion. It's just that he feels very strange. Obviously his father hates backdoors, trusting relationships and the like, but he is very happy with the gifts Yu sends. If he is not satisfied with the gifts given one day, he will remind them and tell them what they want. Over the years, his family has almost piled up a mountain of all kinds of jewelry and jade. Some people followed suit and gave gifts to their father, only to have their father take them back in front of him. No face was given at all. In Zhang Shu's view, his father's only friend is Yu, and everything else is just for profit. Interests tie everyone together. The interest structure inside is very complex, and currently he can see 4 forces. The first battlefield is also the strongest one on the surface, Nanshan Group. It includes the executors represented by Gu Dongshen, the auxiliary team represented by Ho Wenbin, and the Qingtian Group represented by Ant Chenji as the financial core. The 3 parties develop in a balanced manner and no one dares to confront them. Take it lightly. The second battlefield is Qingtian Group. Nominally, Qingtian Group is now under the control of Ant Chenji. In fact, Qingtian Group has many branches within it. For example, brokerage business, banking business, and payment belong to Qingtian Capital, product sales sources, and traffic sources belong to Bixin. Ant Chenji has a lot of control, but she is still controlled by Qingtian Capital and Bixin. The CEO of Qingtian Capital is Anti Guomeng, and the CEO who compares favorably is Anti Song Jiajia. Both sides stand together and are on the same level as Anti Chenji. The third battlefield is Lotus Trust, which is controlled by his father. This mainly serves foreign industries. It is currently Ant Chen Anna's home field, because Ant Chen Anna's son, that is, he does not know where he is ranked. The younger brother is now Surinan's little grandson. Others basically only have the right to divide the dishes and have no right to change anything. Even Ant Chen Anna is of little use, she just deals with more related matters. He vaguely felt that there was a 4th battlefield, but unfortunately he had not seen it until now. Perhaps that battlefield is the most brutal game. Among the 3 battlefields he knew, there were a mixture of forces represented by Gu Dongsheng and Chen Qi, forces represented by Ho Wenbin, forces represented by Chenji, forces represented by Guomeng, Song Jiajia, and forces represented by Shen Anna. Power. The camps are not clear-cut. Many people work as support in these camps, and they are inextricably linked to each other. Such as hospitals and supermarkets. There is also Aunt Jo Ran Ran, who is usually very low-key. The most important thing is her mother. Zhang Shu always felt that the power behind his mother was the most terrifying, but unfortunately he never knew what his mother represented. The power behind Aunt Jo Ran Ran is not weak either, he feels that it is no weaker than it appears on the surface. It seems, low-key people are very strong behind their backs, which is inexplicably weird. Judging from the information he collected, most people in the village can be on the rich list, but in fact only Gu Dongsheng is on the list, and the others have no voice at all and can't even be found online. Similarly, when searching for Li Yuan on the internet, you can only see the date of death. There was no trace of Zhang Yuling, Zhou Ranran, Shen Anna, Xu Yanlin at all. What he originally thought was that when he had thoroughly studied the relationship, he could take the national examination. After studying it for a year, I still feel that it is a little bit worse. He didn't want to ask his father. Only when you study it yourself can you gain a deeper understanding. What others say means you cannot understand the meaning of the deep structure at all. He was panicked by what his father said. Dad dares to give away Nanshan Group as Guyu's dowry? What should I do? Likewise, this would also overturn all his previous research, because Nanshan Group did not hold a very important position in his father's heart. There is nothing more terrifying in the world than this, adding insult to injury. He picked up his cell phone and called Guyu. As the call was connected, he immediately said, "You are not allowed to accept gifts from others, do you hear that? Don't listen, don't listen. Uncle Lu has already told me that I can take it. His words don't count. But I also asked my dad, and he said it's okay." What? Zhang Shu didn't expect Uncle Gu to agree to such a thing. Did he know that his father was going to give away the Nanshan Group as a dowry? Does he want to completely control Nanshan Group? Isn't he afraid that this is his father's trap? The current structure is good for everyone. Once it is broken, the division of interests will be uneven. Hey, Jiangshu, are you jealous? After all, someone gave me a gift, but I have never seen any girl give you a gift. Jiangshu. He is very rare. There were so many girls giving him gifts that they could line up from Qinghe to the capital, but he had never received any. If you dare to accept gifts from others, I will beat you up. He doesn't want to say anything now, he can only express his attitude. He doesn't like Gu Man, not because Gu Man is bad. As long as he agrees, his and Gu Man's children are 2 or 3 years old. It's just that compared to his life goals, being with Gu Man is very inappropriate. He didn't like that kind of extraordinarily out-of-the-box character. Gu Man thought about starting a business all day long, starting a shitty business. He keeps away from girls who like to toss. No matter how powerful you are in starting a business, it is impossible to surpass any elder in the village. The resources those elders provide are enough for the children in the village to struggle for a lifetime. Ordinary people outside will never earn 1/10 of those resources in their lifetime. He wanted to challenge the highest mountain. So since he was a teenager, he has strictly restrained himself and worked hard to improve himself. He will not do it until he has a thorough understanding. If you dare to beat me, I will file a complaint. Do you think I'm afraid of you complaining? You, Jiangshu, you are really angry. Why are you mad? Because I like you. Jiangshu, are you still there? Here I am. Did you mean it on purpose, just because you don't want me to accept gifts, so as not to hurt your self-esteem because you have no gifts to accept? If so, then I will just promise you. No. Do you think it's okay? No, you can't understand human speech. Oh. Jiangshu, are you still there? Here you are, can't you see that the phone is not hanging up? I'm afraid you'll forget about it because you're busy with other things. I might not be able to promise you. Well, hung up. Jiangshu hung up the phone. He didn't lie to Guyu, he really liked her. In his opinion, Guyu's character is the most perfect fit for him. Guyu was still young before, so he didn't say anything. Now that I have said it, since others don't agree, he won't force it either. This kind of thing itself is a gamble, and both sides have the initiative. He continued to teach for him, and Guyu still came to class honestly. However, Jiangshu no longer embarrasses her. In the village, children are treated grandly only if their birthdays are within 3 years of age. After 3 years of age, it is usually celebrated by the family alone, or even not much at home, except for parents to say happy birthday to her. Guyu has never thought that celebrating a birthday is something special. No one in the village pays attention to the sense of ceremony. Only Uncle Lu Hansheng sometimes really has no money, so he will find an excuse to hold a banquet and collect some money. But not many times. According to the saying in the village, birthdays only need to be remembered. There is no benefit in paying attention to the sense of ceremony other than hearing a bunch of insincere compliments. Friday is Guyu's birthday. She got up early in the morning, and the girls in the dormitory helped her bring in a lot of gifts. Some of them look very expensive, and some of them seem to be deliberately pursuing handcrafting, resulting in a horrible appearance. She actually doesn't like receiving gifts, because if she wants them, she can go to Uncle Liu's house to get them. Uncle Liu's house has the most beautiful Hessian jade seed bracelets, the most exquisite antique vases, and the most beautiful jewelry and jade. After she was admitted to college, she was given a bunch of gifts. It's just that she always felt that she entered the university through the back door, and she felt very guilty. She always felt that Uncle Lu had a good taste. There were a lot of luxury goods among these gifts, but there were big problems with these luxury goods. It's a superficial luxury, with absolutely no interiority. To put it bluntly, these are all things that can be mass-produced at will, and the manufacturer has the final say on how much they sell. But true luxury is unique and limited in quantity. For example, The dress she is wearing was given by Aunt Cheen Si, and so far there is no second one on the market. The brand of Cheen Feng has been deliberately hidden, and the brand cannot be seen on the outside of the clothes. Anyone who buys this piece of clothing will not be looking for external show-off, but will basically be looking for a different look. Many styles only have one or more than a dozen pieces. Anyway, there are so many people in the village, except for Uncle Lou who often matches others' clothes, he has basically never bumped into anything else. Even if they are all wearing the same brand. Uncle Liu's clothes were probably given by others. After all, he didn't seem to be able to afford them himself. The ants in the village saw that he was living a relatively poor life and was obsessed with making money all day long, so it was normal for him to give him a few pieces of clothing. Everyone envied her, including her roommates. Looking at those gifts, I exclaimed in amazement. Because some gifts are worth millions. Guyu really didn't ask anyone for a gift, and he never told anyone about it. She took a photo and sent it to Li Yuan. Uncle Lu, I don't dare accept these gifts, and I can't afford to pay them. Soon, Li Yuan replied, this is only a few dollars, take it, take it. Ah! Guyu was stunned. If someone else said this, she would really believe it, because everyone else is very rich. But how could you, Uncle Lu, say such a thing? How much does this cost? The total amount is probably tens of millions. For tens of thousands of dollars, you have to use your brain a lot. Listen to me and write down the list of gifts. If you still can't make it, give me the list. Ah! Why do you want a list? Of course it's to eradicate dissidents, but, of course it's to help you repay the favor. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 392. Guyu finally understood why no one in the village liked receiving gifts. It's really tiring to receive gifts. And she first wanted to return the gift. But many people refused to accept it and gave it to her no matter what. Finally, according to Li Yuan's instructions, she prepared a list of people who gave gifts, and also took photos of the gifts to save. In the evening, after she invited her roommate to have a meal in the cafeteria, she sent the list and photos to Li Yuan. Li Yuan said, do you accept the gift yourself or should I help you accept it? Uncle Lu, help me keep it. The dormitory is not big to begin with, and now it is almost empty. Okay, I'll ask your Uncle Chen Chi to get everything back tomorrow. Well, thank you Uncle Lu. In the room, Li Yuan called Chen Chi. Old Chen, go to Zhangzhou University tomorrow to find Guyu and bring back some things from her dormitory. Then I will give you a list. You can go to their parents directly according to the names on the list, and then send the stuff back. Good. Now Chen Chi is mainly responsible for the security of the village, and he has some ruthless people under him. When Li Yuan went out occasionally, Chen Chi would be his driver. Tomorrow Chen Chi will take those gifts to find the corresponding person, and the matter will be resolved. If those guys dare to harass Guyu again, don't blame him for being rude. What the hell, Guyu has a soft temper, but that doesn't mean he can be easily impressed by your crappy stuff. I refused again and again, but I was still shameless, and I didn't know what to do. Li Yuan knew clearly that those people were just testing to see if Gu Dongsheng would take action. If Gu Dongsheng doesn't take action, they will let their descendants continue to pursue Guyu. What if they catch up? Feelings are something that is always uncertain. Zhang Yuling also came back in the evening. 17 years ago, Zhang Yuling briefly left his job for a year and a half, mainly to give birth to his youngest daughter, Lu Ling. After giving birth to her child, she immediately returned to work when the child was 8 months old. The task of taking care of the children was naturally given to Li Yuan. But now Lu Ling has also entered high school, and Li Yuan has no children to take care of at home. After dinner, Li Yuan chatted with Zhang Yuling about Guyu. Zhang Yuling said with a smile, "You really want to take care of everything now? You used to take care of their schooling, but now you still want to take care of them falling in love? Do you like being a nanny so much? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What's wrong with nannies? You, the boss, can't have this kind of concept. This is professional discrimination on your part. Discriminating against your size. It's a pity that I don't dare to give birth now." Zhang Yuling is 49 years old this year, and the years have still left their traces. Although she can be called a MILF, her charm is still there, but for the physical work of giving birth, let alone she is not capable now. Even if she is, don't dare to come. Listen to what you mean. If you can still have a baby, do you still want another one? Yeah, I'll find you some work. After all, everyone trusts your skills in raising children. Haha. Li Yuan smiled and said no more. He doesn't want to take care of the kids anymore. His children have been brought up, and even though Wen Yuxian is still unwilling to let the two children come back, he still cares about them. Fortunately, Wen Yuxian's personality was similar to his, and the children he taught were about the same as him. Just when Li Yuan was about to discuss with Zhang Yuling whether they could continue to have children, suddenly there was a knock on the bedroom door. In the middle of the night, it was already past 10 o'clock in the evening. "Dad, Mom, it's me." Li Yuan and Zhang Yuling looked at each other on the bed, and Li Yuan said, "It's Zhangshu. I'll open the door." Zhang Yuling frowned. Why did this kid come back suddenly? Who knows? While talking, Li Yuan opened the door. Zhangshu, who had just arrived home, immediately walked in, took off his coat, breathed a sigh of relief, and said, "Mom and Dad, I came back tonight to tell you something." Li Yuan just got into bed. After all, the weather is still relatively cold now, and the most important thing is that the quilt is soft. Why can't we talk about it tomorrow? You need to check with your parents. They are getting older and need to sleep well at this time. Li Yuan didn't think Zhangshu would be the kind of person who cries. If it was Zhangshu before he was 15 years old, he would be very patient, but now, there is no need for it anymore. For others, 30 is the age when they are free from confusion, but for Zhangshu, at the age of 24, he no longer needs to listen to other people's opinions. Zhang Yuling didn't speak. She knew very well what kind of character this eldest son was. If something happens at this time, it won't be a trivial matter. Zhangshu thought about it for a while, and finally said, "Mom, I want to be a soldier." As soon as these words came out, Li Yuan immediately stopped answering. On the side, Zhang Yuling's expression had become extremely cold. Li Yuan found his slippers and left the bedroom secretly. He has no control over this matter. Li Jingchen went to take the national examination. When Zhang Yuling found out, he almost beat Li Jingchen to death. He made everyone at home look bad for half a month, and the whole family almost broke up. Now that Zhangshu is going to make trouble again, it would be strange if Zhang Yuling could let him go. Sure enough, when Li Yuan came back a few minutes later with a feather duster, Zhang Yuling had already wrapped himself in his coat and got up from the bed. Li Yuan hurried over, handed the feather duster to Zhang Yuling, and said, "Daughter-in-law, beat me. Beat me hard." Zhang Yuling rolled his eyes at him. Li Yuan explained, "This bastard doesn't know the heights of the world. He doesn't understand how we feel as parents at all. He broke his legs and asked him to serve as a soldier." Zhang Yuling would not stop others from becoming soldiers, but Zhangshu could not. After all, Li Jingchen can still flatter and flatter others. Even if he encounters a lot of resistance, it won't really pose a threat to him. But Zhangshu's character is destined to be confrontational with others. She didn't want to collect her son's body. The car explosion 9 years ago almost scared Zhang Yuling to death. God seemed to remind her all the time, "Be careful, Otherwise this would be the end. After being with Li Yuan, she lived a peaceful life for a few years. Li Yuan had been in trouble again and again. Now that he had finally changed his identity and was preparing to spend the rest of his life in a down-to-earth manner, the two children began to struggle again. Zhang Yuling did not pick up the feather duster, but pulled Zhang Shu and went to a villa not far away. That villa was left by Zhang Yuanqiao and was usually unoccupied. The current property owner belongs to Zhang Shu. Basically, it only requires someone to clean it once every half-month, and Zhang Shu is rarely here. After all, Zhang Shu couldn't cook, so it was easier to live with his parents and grandparents. After arriving here, Zhang Yuling turned on the light. Then he took Zhang Shu to the study. This study room is full of things left by Zhang Yuanqiao from that time. Of course, the portraits of Zhang Yuanqiao and Zhang Yuling's parents are also indispensable. No one can enter the study, only Zhang Yuling can. She would come over and wipe down the frame and stay there for a few hours. Li Yuan occasionally accompanies her. After she pulled Zhang Shu in, she locked Li Yuan at the door, preventing Li Yuan from entering. Then, pointing to several portraits, he said, "The one at the top is your great-grandpa, and below are your grandma and grandpa. Do you know how old your great-grandpa was when he passed away? 67 years old. The 13th Taibao of Zhangzhou at that time. Your great-grandfather is the youngest, but he was the first to leave. The 13 Taibao have gone away a lot over the years, but both Ho Zhenqiu and Hong Deidu are still in good health, even though they are almost 90 years old. Do you know how old your grandma and grandpa were when they left? 33 years old. You want to put your photo up? Do you want to push your age forward by almost 10 years? Really?" Zhang Yuling's eyes were moist. Zhang Shu said, "I want to make people's lives more meaningful. My father has always been afraid to go out. He can obviously do a lot of things, but for various reasons, he is forced to stay in the village. I want to change this." "Change? Why do you change? Have you asked your dad what he thinks? He wants to go out, who can stop him? He doesn't want to go out. I don't believe how someone like Dad could be willing to stay in the village. Did I spend more time with him, or did you spend more time with him? I know Dad better than Mom." Zhang Shu's attitude was still firm. Li Yuan was outside, leaning on the door and listening. Unfortunately, the soundproofing was so good that he couldn't hear clearly. Until the door to the room was suddenly opened, and Zhang Yuling with wet eyes appeared in front of him. Li Yuan immediately sent the feather duster up and said, "Daughter-in-law, you can beat me when you need to. If the child is disobedient, just beat him a few more times." This time, Zhang Yuling took it. Li Yuan took the opportunity to enter the room and saw Zhang Shu kneeling in front of the portraits of the three elders. Zhang Yuling gritted his teeth and said, "I will give you another chance now. Just pretend that tonight's incident never happened. From now on, you can either continue your academic research honestly, or you can work hard as a teacher in the university." "No, I'm going to be a soldier." As soon as Zhang Shu finished speaking, Zhang Yuling slapped him. "Can you say that again?" "I'm going to be a soldier. Then I'll beat you to death." At this time, Li Yuan took out his mobile phone, recorded the video, and also worked part-time as a commentator. "Guyu, did you see this? I asked your Aunt Zhang to beat Zhang Shu. The beating was so painful. Daughter-in-law, whip it harder. If you get tired, let me do it. This bastard has done nothing wrong and wants to be a soldier. He doesn't even take a mother like you seriously." Zhang Yuling never beat his children in the true sense, even though Zhang Shu was naughty and difficult to control when he was a child. This was the first time that she didn't hold back at all. A crisp sound could be heard, but Zhang Shu, who was kneeling over there, remained silent. If anyone gives in, Zhang Yuling will be discouraged immediately. Chicken feathers were scattered all over the floor. This family artifact finally fell on one of our own, and suffered an unprecedented blow. No one wants to see such a lose-lose situation. After Li Yuan took the video, he put down his phone. He didn't interfere in this matter. Zhang Yuling needed to vent his emotions. Since Zhang Shu chose this path, he should have been prepared. If you can't even bear this, then give up as soon as possible. No matter how cruel parents are, they will never be willing to take a heavy blow, let alone take the life of their own children. But that may not be the case for others. Zhang Yuling cried and shouted to make Zhang Shu change his mind, but Zhang Shu's stubbornness only resulted in scars all over his body. After half an hour, Zhang Yuling was panting and out of breath. Li Yuan then stopped her, but Zhang Yuling didn't stop and hit Li Yuan with a duster. At that moment, Zhang Yuling looked numb. The feather duster in his hand also fell off. Li Yuan supported her and said, "This kid just needs to be beaten. But you don't need to be exhausted. I am in good health. I will beat her later. I guarantee that I will either see his body tomorrow morning or make him change his mind." Zhang Yuling said nothing. Li Yuan took the opportunity to pick her out and took her home. After being put on the bed, Li Yuan patiently comforted Zhang Yuling. It wasn't until Zhang Yuling calmed down that he said, "Daughter-in-law, you wait here, I have to help you say this." After saying that, he turned around and prepared to go out. However, Zhang Yuling grabbed his hand. "Honey, do you feel any pain? What's wrong with me? I deserve this duster." Zhang Yuling said depressedly, "Am I too selfish?" "No, how can this be called selfish? You are doing this for their own good. They can obviously live a smooth life, marry a wife honestly, have children, and don't have to worry about anything at home, but they just love to toss and don't care. If the parents' advice is taken carelessly, it won't hurt even if they are beaten to death. That bastard Li Jingcheng is lucky, and I will make up for it when he comes home for the Chinese New Year. But I couldn't do it anymore. When I hit Zhang Shu, I felt very distressed. That kid really doesn't give us any face, even if he just pretends. Zhang Yuling, didn't I learn it from you? I don't have a bad temper like him. When it's time to give in, I give in as soon as possible. Hug. Okay." Li Yuan came to the bed and held Zhang Yuling in his arms. Zhang Yuling put a sticker on Li Yuan and said to himself, "Have you been wronged over the years? You haven't had children for 5 or 6 years, right?" "What 5 or 6 years? Don't we only have 3 children? There were none 16 years ago." It still smells the same as before." Zhang Yuling likes Li Yuan to lie to her. If Li Yuan doesn't care about someone, he won't lie. She said, "I know you have always wanted Zhang Shu to go out. Although there are people secretly helping Jing Cheng, the upper limit of Jing Cheng is actually not very high. Maybe you may not be able to reach Yao Yingsong's current position after working hard for a lifetime. But Zhang Shu is different." "What's the difference?" "Zhang Shu is even worse. He has the same bad temper as his great-grandfather. No wonder he is a descendant of your Zhang family." Zhang Yuling suddenly hugged Li Yuan tightly. "Husband, you will help him, right?" "Can't help. No one can help him with the path he wants to take. Only he can help himself. But, I can save his life, just like the old man told me back then, I will save my life even if I lose everything. Kill him." End of chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 393. Guyu ran out of school in the middle of the night and still called Chen Qi to let him go. After all, it was already 11:30, the dormitory was about to close, and the school gate had long since stopped allowing students to enter or leave. After she returned to the village, she went to the house where no one usually lived. Everyone knew that the villa belonged to Jiangshu and belonged to him at all times. But tonight, the lights are on in the study over there, and the door to the villa is not closed. It was her first time to enter this villa, but the layout was similar to her home. The video was in the study room, so she went straight to the door of the study room. After she stood at the door for a while and stuck her head in, she found that there was no one else except Jiangshu, who was kneeling on the ground. Then she felt relieved and slipped in. Jiangshu, Uncle Lu, and Aunt Zhang have left. You should get up quickly. In the video, Zhang Yuling had no energy at all. Although the weather was cold now, Jiangshu wore a lot of clothes, but he had no coat at all, only a sweater and a shirt. There is no telling how much power it can withstand. Jiangshu didn't move at all. He kept looking at the photo in front of him and asked, "Why are you here?" Guyu said, "Seeing you being beaten because of me, how could I not come? I'm really sorry. I never thought of letting Aunt Zhang beat you. It has nothing to do with you. This time it's my own problem." Guyu was surprised and said, "You are so good, how can there be a problem? Everyone thinks you are the most beneficial person in the village. After all, Jiangshu has never been rebellious, and he has matured too much over the years. Compared with other naughty kids, there is a big gap between him and Jiangshu to the naked eye. The most intuitive feeling is that Jiangshu failed to do the same thing well because it was too difficult and beyond the capabilities of the young man. If others don't do well, they just don't study hard, have no ability, and are useless. The double standards of elders are summed up from countless small things." Jiangshu said, "This time is different." "Why is it different? What did you do wrong?" "I want to leave home." "Ah. When you say leaving, in what sense do you mean leaving? Uncle Lu and Aunt Zhang shouldn't have any restrictions on you having to be in Qinghe, right? Didn't you study in the capital in college?" Jiangshu went to university in the capital, and later did his master's and doctoral degrees here in Qinghe. It's a real departure. I probably won't be back in the short term. What do you mean? How long does this short term mean? Maybe 10 years, maybe 30 years. Guyu was stunned. She has only lived for 18 years now. Jiangshu actually wants to leave home and not come back for 30 years. Soon, Jiangshu continued, it is possible that he will come back earlier. Then come back early. What comes back are my ashes. Then don't come back, no, what on earth are you going to do? Guyu felt that what Jiangshu said was too impressive. Be a soldier. Then actually, you don't want to be on the front line, right? War has never stopped, especially from the 2 years since she was born until now. She is no longer even satisfied with the game in the audience. Why? You are obviously so smart and you can take many paths. Why do you have to take this path? Because anything else that is powerful is not truly powerful. Why do you want to be so strong? Aren't everyone living a good life now? Well, you should go back to bed quickly. The heating in this villa is not turned on and it is already very cold. Jiangshu didn't want to explain anything to Guyu anymore. After all, Guyu's world is very simple, it is the happy life that can be seen in front of you. Such people will be very happy throughout their lives. Then you come with me, I'll go find Uncle Lu and explain the situation. She didn't dare to talk to Zhang Yuling because Zhang Yuling would not pamper her. Only that Uncle Lu has a particularly good character, he is kind to everyone, and he likes himself very much. With such an elder, she was willing to go to him for many things that she didn't dare to tell her father. Who knew? Jiangshu suddenly said, my dad thinks the same as me. Ah. Uncle Lu also wants you to become a soldier. Impossible. Guyu immediately denied this statement. She knew Uncle Lu so well that even if Jiangshu was not his biological son, he would not let Jiangshu die. Besides, if you want Jiangshu to go out, why did you send yourself a video? Don't you just want me to come back and persuade Jiangshu? As for why it was her, she didn't know. Come anyway. Jiangshu said, he really didn't say anything. If I didn't go, he definitely wouldn't say anything. It's just that I want to go now. Why didn't you want to go before, but now you want to? Because I still didn't understand a lot of things before, and I still had to wait for a result. Now, I've waited for that result, and I gradually understand things that I didn't understand before. Guyu stood blankly on the spot. What result are you waiting for? It seemed that ever since Jiangshu said something that day, his whole person had changed. If you don't cause trouble for yourself, you won't look at yourself in class. Jiangshu, don't say that the result you are waiting for has anything to do with me. Jiangshu nodded, yes. You're crazy. I'm only 18 years old. I've been waiting since you were 16. Guyu panicked, pacing back and forth. After a while, she said, does that mean you won't leave just because I promised to be your girlfriend? Jiangshu shook his head, the same result, whether you agree or not, I will leave. The result of waiting for you is nothing more than the difference between leaving with peace of mind and feeling uneasy. What is peace of mind and what is unease? When you have a girlfriend, you don't have to worry about your girlfriend anymore. You can do your job with peace of mind. If you don't have one, you'll most likely be distracted by looking for her. After all, I've reached the age to get married. Guyu's mind was in a mess and she couldn't figure it out. She really didn't think about these things, at least during the 4 years of college, she didn't think about getting married. It's okay if you're in love. Can't Jiangshu take his time? At this moment, she heard footsteps coming from outside and looked towards the door. After a while, Li Yuan's figure appeared in front of the study. Li Yuan saw Guyu and said with a smile, it's so late, why aren't you in the dormitory? Guyu ran over and said, Uncle Lu, Jiangshu said he was going to join the army. Well, I know, I came here just to see him off. What? Guyu thought about what Jiangshu said just now. Did Uncle Lu really want Jiangshu to leave? And then you don't come back. What is he planning? She really didn't want to think ill of this Uncle Lu, because this Uncle Lu brought many happy things to her childhood. But he asked Jiangshu to die. How can we not let people speculate maliciously? Li Yuan didn't say anything else to Guyu, but pulled out the chair next to the desk and sat on it. Looking at Jiangshu who was kneeling aside, he slowly said, your mother, I have already agreed with her that after dawn, you should go to school and hand over your work. Good. Li Yuan said seriously, when you go out this time, don't expect your family to do anything for you, and don't expect me to do anything for you. When you leave this village, you are yourself, and you are the only one. No one else in the village can do anything for you. I won't give you any resources, do you understand? Li Jingchen's side has more or less taken advantage of some of the family's resources, and Yao Yingsong can also help out. But Jiangshu really didn't have any resources at all, so he had to work hard on his own. Of course, if he is only one step away from the final success, Li Yuan will try his best to help him win. But that is not something that should be considered now. It will take at least 20 or 30 years. Whether Li Yuan can survive until that time is still debated. Jiangshu lowered his head, I know. Li Yuan continued, you are not allowed to come back in the future, and you are not allowed to call home at other times except on New Year's Day. Even if you get married and have children, you have to come from outside and have nothing to do with the family. You are not allowed to call me dad again. Nothing else matters. Then let me ask you one last question, do you still want to go? Jiangshu said without thinking, go. Li Yuan closed his eyes and was silent for a long time. Guyu, feeling the suffocating atmosphere on the side, finally couldn't help but ask, why does it have to be like this? Isn't it nice for everyone to live together? The village is very harmonious, doesn't everyone play together? Are you happy? Isn't Aunt Zhang very rich? If not, I can ask my dad to give it to me. She talked for a long time, but no one responded to her. Uncle Lu, can't you stop Jiangshu? As long as you speak, Jiangshu won't leave. If you want something, I can promise you. Jiangshu doesn't want anything. He won't argue with you. What do you want? It doesn't matter if Aunt Zhang leaves everything to Lu Ling. This was all she could think of. It's just that Uncle Lu is coveting Aunt Jiang's property. Neither Jiangshu nor Li Jingcheng are his biological sons, and he wants to leave something for his daughter Lu Ling. There is no need to sacrifice Jiangshu. Still no one answered her. Just like that, more than 10 minutes passed. The two of them remained motionless. Finally, Li Yuan opened his eyes and asked, "Do you have anything else to ask? I can answer you tonight." Jiangshu shook his head, "No more." After hearing this, Li Yuan stood up directly and said, "Then you can sleep here tonight, go home for a meal tomorrow night, and leave the day after tomorrow." "Good." Li Yuan left. Gu Yu shouted from behind, "Can't we leave next year? The Chinese New Year will be in 2 months, can't we just spend the whole New Year at home?" Unfortunately, Li Yuan did not stop because of Gu Yu's words. For the first time, Gu Yu felt that Uncle Lu was so strange and inhumane. Even though Jiangshu was not his biological father, Jiangshu had respected him so much for so many years and treated him completely as his biological father. Why is he so cruel? Seeing that calling Uncle Lu was useless, she hurriedly came to Jiangshu, squatted on the ground, and said to Jiangshu, "Jiangshu, can we not listen to him?" Jiangshu shook his head, "Leave me alone and go back to bed quickly. I won't sleep tonight." "You." Gu Yu is so angry. It feels like Jiangshu is so smart in studies, but why is he so stupid at this time? Right now, she felt that the only one who could solve this problem was her father. After all, his father is the richest man in the world and has the greatest say in the village. On weekdays, I just respect Uncle Lu. After all, Uncle Lu has no job and no money, so it is easy for him to develop an inferiority complex. Everyone in the village cares about Uncle Lu, but it's all because of Aunt Jiang's identity. Just wait, I'll go find my dad. After she finished speaking, she ran out quickly. It was already 1 o'clock in the morning, and she knew that her father must have rested. Normally, she wouldn't dare disturb her father late at night, but tonight, she was ready to take a risk. The worst possible outcome would be to get scolded. She returned to her villa, passed the identification, opened the door, and walked in. The house was quiet, everyone was obviously asleep. She went directly to the master bedroom and knocked on the door. "Who?" She heard her aunt's voice coming from inside. "Auntie, it's me, Gu Yu, I have something to do with Dad." After a while, the door opened. When Gu Yu was about to go in, her aunt whispered, "Your father just fell asleep and was woken up in a rage. Don't mess with him." "Okay." Gu Yu has known about her family's situation since she was a child. "My father is not married, but all 6 children are under his household registration. She has an older brother and a sister who are both in college, and 3 younger brothers who are all in high school." Gu Dongshen leaned back on the bed, a little exhausted, and asked with a cold face, "Why are you looking for me in the middle of the night? Why are you not in school?" Gu Dongshen also likes this daughter, even though she is mediocre in all aspects. It's just that he has been really busy these years, especially tonight. He finally fell asleep and was woken up again. After being a boss for so many years, it is normal to have a temper. If you don't have a temper, you can't control people. Nanshan Group is different from other companies. There are too many people, and it is the kind of work that tests human nature. Gu Yu is very afraid of her father. She always feels that her father's eyes can kill people. With this look in his eyes, it would be impossible to cultivate him even if he didn't have 100 or 80 lives in his hands. She said cautiously, "Dad, I want to ask you for a favor." "Is there anything I can't tell you, Uncle Lu? Doesn't he care about your lives?" Gu Dongsheng doesn't care about trivial matters, he's afraid of using too much force if he's not careful. Li Yuan is the best person to take charge of it. Anyway, he is very low-key now and is also very experienced. It's related to Uncle Lu, he insists on letting Jiangshu become a soldier. Can you persuade him? Doesn't he just want Aunt Jiang's property? He wants Jiangshu to die and then squeeze out Li Jingcheng. This way, as a result, Aunt Jiang's property belongs to his daughter Lu Ling. Gu Dongsheng. Who did you listen to? Do you still need to hear about it? I saw it with my own eyes today. Uncle Lu is so cruel that he deliberately asked Aunt Jiang to beat Jiangshu and told Jiangshu never to come back again. He also said that his family would not give him a penny of help. Not even allowed to call home. What? Gu Dongsheng was shocked when he heard this. Dad, you are the only one who can help Jiangshu. Otherwise, I will give my dowry to Uncle Lu, and you can help me to talk to Uncle Lu to change his mind, okay? End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 394. Gu Dongsheng stopped dozing off and sat up from the bed. The woman next to him quickly brought him pajamas, but Gu Dongsheng said, "No pajamas, I'm going to go out." Okay. Gu Yu on the side was overjoyed after hearing this. Her father was ready to take action. She didn't believe that there was nothing in the world that her father couldn't do. Even if Uncle Lu gives him face on weekdays, if something really happens, he still has to take action from the world's richest man. She also followed happily. As a result, Gu Dongsheng put on his clothes, turned around and said to her, "Stay at home and sleep when you can. If you can't, wait for me to come back. I have something to ask you." After Gu Dongsheng went out, he went straight to Li Yuan's side. He knew that Li Yuan would definitely not be able to sleep. When we came here, sure enough, Li Yuan was sitting in the living room. Seeing him coming in, Li Yuan said with a smile, "What? Is this a dowry?" After Gu Dongsheng sat down, he said, "I would like to give it as a gift, but what use is that dowry? It's not as thick as a hair on your legs." Li Yuan hasn't gone out much in recent years, and he disappeared directly after the incident 9 years ago. But who dares to underestimate him? On the surface, he already controls global finance, but secretly. I'm afraid that if others take a bite of food, they have to ask for his permission. In the past 20 years, Li Yuan has just hidden his strength, but it has not been wasted. Li Yuan smiled and said, "You are just talking nonsense. Who doesn't know your strength as the world's richest man? I have lost all my money over the years. It's as if I came to you to borrow money. There's no money, and anything else is nonsense." Li Yuan knew very well that Gu Dongsheng was testing. Who doesn't want to know how much money he has, and who doesn't want to know how much he has laid out? But if others know, he will live to the end. It is precisely because we don't know that we are afraid. Gu Dongsheng did not continue to dwell on this issue, but asked, "Really let Jiangshu go out?" "Well, he chose it himself and it has nothing to do with me. If Jiangshu doesn't go out, Li Yuan will be exposed. The wealth in his hands has reached a point where it can hardly be concealed no matter what." So Jiangshu wanted to understand at this time that he was very happy. There are some things that even Zhang Yuling is not suitable to know. She knew that she might not be able to sleep. "What do you need from my side? Although my side is not as strong as yours, it still has some advantages. Use my side's resources first." Gu Dongshen didn't believe that Li Yuan just pushed Zhang Shu out, and he would definitely make arrangements for him. But Li Yuan immediately said, "No, no, no, let him break out on his own, no one can interfere in this matter. Only when he can break out on his own is he truly capable. What does it mean if others help him? It might even bring him trouble." Huh? So hard. I really have nothing left for them. I have kept everything that should be kept. The little things on paper are not enough to fill the gap between teeth, so I simply let him go out on his own. But if something big happens, you still have to be willing to give up. Gu Dongshen. Even if we only count the strength on paper, it is not low. Okay, how about we discuss the gift? Gu Man or Gu Yu, you choose. Li Yuan smiled and said, "Where I choose to go depends on fate. But Lao Gu, you have to think about it. Following Jiangshu will not bring good results. Otherwise, I will give you the money I owed you 20 years ago. Did you pay back the 8,000 yuan? Gun, that is the most important investment in my life. Do you want to pay it back? There is no way." Gu Dongshen's previous ambitions have been almost exhausted in the past 20 years. Mainly because he has reached the limit of what his life can bear. He only had so little foundation. If Li Yuan hadn't given him the chance, he would have been like Ma Chenkai, selling meat buns in front of the university. That's it, Li Yuanbei gave him a facade, otherwise he wouldn't even be able to afford the rent. Just relying on that facade, that guy Ma Chenkai was able to marry a beautiful wife. He is now waiting for his children to grow up and see that they have the ability to support themselves, and then he will retire from Nanshan Group immediately. In Li Yuan's words, it's time to find a successor when you're in your 40s, and when you're 50 you can retire and still be comfortable for a few more years. Otherwise, if you still occupy the position when you are older, you will have to make many foolish decisions. Even the most powerful people will not have much learning ability after the age of 50, and their perception of changes in the outside world will become slow. This is why many large companies are not making money even though their business model is normal. The leaders are old, how can we expect the people below to be energetic? The children in the village each have their own characteristics. In the next 2 or 3 years, they will be divided into various positions for assessment. Those who pass the assessment can start to take over things. If you don't pass the examination, just be a rich second generation, don't cause trouble for the family, and have more children. Anyway, I don't know how many shares of the family fund were privately split back then. Basically, everyone could have 2 shares. For example, the 10 shares he held were privately split into 100 shares, worth 5 million each. Over the years, the annual income of each family fund has never been less than 30 million. His 5 million shares represent an income of at least 3 million a year. If one person holds a few shares, he can receive tens of millions in dividends at the end of the year. Basically, he won't be short of money throughout the year. In the village, we never worry about our descendants lying flat, because it doesn't matter. Everyone follows Li Yuan's standards and has at least 3 children. He is not afraid even if he lies down. Li Yuan is still young. As long as he gets married as soon as possible, his descendants can still be raised. 3 second generations, according to the standard, can still give birth to 9 third generations. Can all 9 of them lie down? This exponential growth is terrifying. The houses in the village are no longer enough to live in. Gu Dongshen, the world's richest man, has to squeeze 9 people into a villa. It's not too crowded for now, but after 10 years it will really become uninhabitable. We are currently preparing for a second base, and some people will be moved there at that time. At present, even if Jiangshu fails, he will not hesitate to invest. Who makes Jiangshu the most powerful second generation in the village? Over the years, if he hadn't used the 8,000 yuan as an excuse, there would be no share for him. Ho Wenbin and his group have long been greedy. Even that old guy Yu wants to arrange a marriage for his 12-year-old granddaughter in advance. He was really shameless. He was 12 years younger than Zhang Shu, so he didn't know how he had the shame to speak. Li Yuan did not express his attitude on this matter, and allowed him to use 8,000 yuan as a shield, which was regarded as giving him a chance. If you can't grasp it, you really can't blame others. Then you talk to Zhang Shu, he is over there in his house. Okay, I'll leave first. If you need anything, come to me. Soon, Gu Dongsheng left. Li Yuan was not waiting for him. His call has been made, the real guest will come later. More than an hour later, Li Yuan's phone rang. Then he pushed in against the wall on the first floor. A door opened on the wall. After he entered, the door closed quickly, and there was basically no trace left outside. Bright corridor, very clean, almost nothing. The walls on both sides are white, giving an unobstructed view. After walking a few steps, a room appeared in which two young women who looked to be in their 30s were sitting there. They all have short hair and round oval faces. Zhou Ranran seemed more casual and came in her pajamas. But Qin Si on the side is more formal. After Li Yuan sat down, he asked, "Sister Ran, did I wake you up?" Zhou Ranran rolled her eyes and said, "How much sleepiness can I have at such an old age? What you are saying means that we know everything. If you go outside, others will think you are only 18 years old." Zhou Ranran said with a smile, "You are so easy to lie now. It is said that women look good to please themselves, and men lie to please themselves. I am sincere." But Sister Ran, on the other hand, didn't even change her clothes, which shows that our relationship has weakened. Zhou Ranran was anxious. "You still want to be shameless? Aren't you talking about business? What are you doing talking nonsense for a long time? Warm up the field, so that Sister Ran won't get used to it later. At your age, do you still have foreplay?" Li Yuan. Isn't this just looking down on people? Although he is 43 years old, he has taken good care of himself over the years. Chen Ji passed down her craftsmanship to both Anna Shen and Yuan Cao. Not to mention having Xu Yanlin check her body. Li Yuan then looked at Qin Si and asked, "Sisi, what's going on with Qin Sheng recently? He didn't go home for the Chinese New Year last year, so he has to come back this year, right?" Qin Si said with some embarrassment, "I don't know yet. I'll urge him when the time comes. We can't put it off any longer. I will resolve this matter this year. Then give him some chance." Qin Si didn't say much. After all, she and Li Yuan also have children, and both children are almost adults now. Qin Sheng is not young, he is 27 years old this year. His personal abilities are very good, but his personality has some problems. After all, she still couldn't let go of Qin Sheng, otherwise Qin Sheng would have no chance of coming back. "Li Yuan, where are you thinking? Although Qin Sheng has nothing to do with me, I have treated him as my own son for so many years. Although the most taboo thing for men is to raise other people's children, I am not afraid of this. I promise to let him continue to call you mom willingly, and we will still be a family in the future. It is very difficult to balance the whole family, especially a family like Li Yuan's. Everyone has their own personality, and it is impossible to let all children grow up in their own direction. Of course there must be punishment, but there must also be some warmth. Otherwise cohesion will decrease." On Qin Sheng's side, it's not a big deal, it's just that he was instigated, saying that because he was not his biological child, Qin Si planned to leave the Qin Feng brand to his younger siblings without his share. Once or twice is nothing, but Qin Sheng is now 27 years old and has been in society for 5 years. It's normal to have some self-doubts after being whispered into and hinted at every day. Just correct it? Well, okay. Is there anything important you want to see Sister Ran and me for tonight? Qin Si didn't want to waste Li Yuan's time. Li Yuan said, "It's past 12 o'clock, that is, tomorrow, Zhang Shu is going to join the army." Um. Zhou Ranran and Qin Si both frowned. They didn't expect Zhang Shu to make such a decision at this time. Li Yuan said with a smile, "So, as a father, I came over to ask his two aunts for help. But usually there is no need to take action. I am afraid that something will happen to him, so I will arrange a few more bullets for him." Of Qin Si and Zhou Ranran are his biggest trump cards. The two of them are different from others, they are ruthless enough. In order to take revenge, Qin Si could plot to kill the man openly. Zhou Ranran dared to hit someone's head with a brick for Wang Qi's sake. And the two of them have great natural advantages. The brand Qin Feng in Qin Si's hands is now regarded as a powerful tool for building connections. After 20 years of development, the connections in her hands have reached an extremely terrifying level. Leaders in all walks of life. Not to mention Zhou Ranran, just because Wang Qi is the first to see her every time he comes back, he knows that she can ask Yao Yingsong to do something. Over the years, he has given Yao Yingsong many gifts, otherwise Yao Yingsong would not be where he is now. Li Jingcheng married Yao Yingsong's daughter again, which made this matter easier to handle. He told Zhang Yuling to save Zhang Shu's life. In fact, he had already decided which step Zhang Shu would take 20 years ago. Zhou Ranran said with a smile, "You don't seem to be begging for help. You haven't come to me for at least half a month, right?" Li Yuan. Can he make it in time? I am now in my 40s, not in my 20s. Even if he had one day off, not counting Wen Yuxian, it would take him 18 days to complete one rotation. I haven't been there for half a month, isn't it normal? Then Sister Ran, tell me, let me choose a time. Now. Come on, I'll risk it all. For the sake of his son, he had been mentally prepared before coming. After all, what else could Zhou Ranran want? He doesn't regret it anyway, because there are many people around him who can use this decision. Qin Si and Zhou Ranran are both extremely low-key people, and they don't even have much property under their hands. Qin Feng is just a symbol, and is actually not worth much. Its annual output value is only 20 to 30 billion. Zhou Ranran has no business under his control. There was a small media company in the past, which has long since been transferred to Jushin Media. In recent years, it has been like a pension, and it has never even left the village. The disturbances from the outside world have nothing to do with her. But when Cao Ping visited during the Chinese New Year, apart from Li Yuan, the second family he went to was Zhou Ranran's. The same goes for Yu. Until midnight, Zhang Yuling, who couldn't sleep, got up and packed some things for Zhang Shu. It was almost dawn when I saw Li Yuan coming back. It seems like my legs are a little weak. She hurried over to help him and said, "You can't work less." Li Yuan sighed, "For the sake of my son, it doesn't matter if I endure this hardship, as long as the child can be safe." Hearing this, Zhang Yuling couldn't help but laugh. "Are you really going to find Ran? What else? Wife, you don't know that Sister Ran is so fierce now that she dragged me to work for her all night." End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 395. Li Yuan slept from 6 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. Whether you admit it or not, you are getting older after all. Even if you pay attention to physical maintenance on weekdays, you will never be able to hit the gas as unscrupulously as before. If he put the gas on slowly, he felt that he should be able to drive it for another 10 years. If he stepped on the accelerator hard, it would be dead in 3 to 5 years. The house was very lively. Zhang Shu went home after going to school to do handover work in the morning. After Zhou Wan and Li Wan he found out about this, they didn't say anything and worked with Zhang Yuling to help him pack his things. Li Yuan was not prepared to tell him his arrangements, leaving him with an all-or-nothing mentality at all times. After all, no matter how careful the arrangements are, it is impossible to cope with all emergencies. He can only guide, not change. How far he can achieve it all depends on Zhang Shu himself. After he got up, he quickly ate a few mouthfuls of food. He was really hungry. In the living room, Zhang Shu was very quiet, sitting nearby and listening to Li Wanhe's chatter. Li Wanhe, who is in his 60s, has never been able to let go of these children, but he was not aware of the risk of Zhang Shu leaving, so he was not that worried. I just feel like being a soldier, isn't it? Came back soon. The only pity is that Zhang Shu doesn't wait until the new year is over and insists on leaving now. After 7 o'clock in the evening, it was a pure family dinner. Many people came over on the way, but in the end they were all driven away by Li Yuan. No one will be brought to dinner tonight, just the whole family eating. Li Jingcheng hasn't come back yet, and he doesn't need to come back. Li Yuan had to make a cut with Zhang Shu, let alone Li Jingcheng. Cutting is also the best way to protect the river tree, at least in the early stage, so as not to put the river tree under too much pressure. For Zhang Yuling, this meal was not a happy one. She doesn't know when she will see her son next, maybe a few years, more than 10 years. These are not the most terrifying things. What she is most afraid of seeing is not her son. Gu Yu was at home and said to Gu Dongsheng, "Dad, didn't you go find Uncle Lu last night? Why didn't you leave Zhang Shu behind?" After she woke up, she found that news was spreading in the village that Zhang Shu was going to join the army, and she was completely confused. Last night, she was confident that her father's intervention would definitely change Uncle Liu's mind. The result, it didn't work. Gu Dongsheng said helplessly, that was Zhang Shu's own idea, and his parents agreed. As an uncle, what excuse do I have to intervene? Gu Yu immediately said, Zhang Shu was forced, I heard it clearly. What did Zhang Shu say? He said. Gu Yu hesitated for a long time without saying anything. After all, she was really not good at lying. Anyway, it was Uncle Lu who did it on purpose. He knew Zhang Shu was kind-hearted and deliberately kidnapped him morally. Gu Dongsheng laughed when he heard this. Moral kidnapping? This move is what Zhang Shu is best at. Zhang Shu, who was 7 or 8 years old, had mastered this trick. Of course, Li Yuan will definitely know this trick, but he will never use it in this matter. Okay, this matter has been settled. If you are really serious, go see Zhang Shu off tomorrow morning. Gu Yu's face was instantly filled with disappointment. Zhang Shu had told her that he was not going to be an artist or logistics person, he was going to be on the front line. That's killing people. Dad, is there really nothing we can do? Gu Dongsheng shook his head, there is nothing we can do. We can't interfere in other people's affairs. For the first time, Gu Yu discovered that his father's status as the world's richest man didn't seem to be that effective. During dinner at home, her roommate asked her if she would go back. And she had sent several messages to Zhang Shu, but Zhang Shu didn't reply. After dinner, Zhang Shu came to Li Yuan's study. He has known since he was a child that this is where his father works and ordinary people are not allowed to enter. Even family members rarely come over. At most, they ask him to come in and take a look when eating. Even the cleaning of the room is done by either Li Yuan or Zhang Yuling, and they don't interact with outsiders. Today Li Yuan called Zhang Shu over and asked Zhang Shu to sit in his seat. Li Yuan looked at the calm Zhang Shu and was very satisfied. Said, Zhang Shu, what do you think of me as a father? Has it met your expectations? Zhang Shu nodded without hesitation, although I didn't have much money, I lived a very happy life. I remember many things after I was 5 years old very clearly, and no one else can do it like my father. Haha, that's because they don't have time, they have to be busy with their lives. Except for a few other things, for most people, who doesn't want to play with their son? Jiangshu nodded again, knowing what his father meant. This is human nature. Actually, if you regret it now, it's still too late. If you regret it, your mother will be very happy. She really wants to keep you by her side. She is already 50 years old. Zhang Yuling is not the oldest is Guo Meng, who is already 51 this year. Guo Meng's life has only caught up to the last 5 years. Now he basically focuses on his career and paving the way for his children. Li Yuan wanted to see her only once in a month or two. Li Yuan deliberately emphasized Zhang Yuling's age in order to give Jiangshu a sense of oppression. He can't wait until Zhang Yuling comes back when he's 70, right? And if he wants to come back, he must take the last step. Otherwise, all your efforts will be in vain. Jiangshu didn't answer this time, and he didn't know what step he could take. Li Yuan continued, actually, you can just take a step forward, and don't think about doing everything the best. What you have to do is to open up the situation. No matter when, it is not as important as breaking the ice. Wait until the road behind is clear, then slow down, just take your time to improve. If you can't change it, I can help you change it. But again, before that, I can't provide you with any resources. There are too many people staring at me. Helping you is equal to harming you. I understand. Whenever Li Yuan takes action, others will know Jiangshu's purpose. Jiangshu makes his own decisions, and others won't think Jiangshu has any big ambitions. Even if they thought he had it, they wouldn't think Jiangshu could succeed as long as Li Yuan didn't help. It's as if you obviously went to deliver a letter, but instead of sending your subordinates, you ended up doing it yourself. Others will definitely doubt the content of the letter and get rid of the letter at all costs. My study is yours tonight. Whatever you want to see, go and see it yourself. It's time for me to put my wife to sleep, haha. After Li Yuan finished speaking, he left, and Jiangshu also left. My father's feelings are very complicated, but he is really good to my mother. It seems that my mother has never been wronged in these years, and my father is always the first to notice that something is wrong with my mother's emotions. And I seem to be unable to do this. He turned on the computer and found a file on the desktop. After he opened it, he discovered that the title of the file was Spark. A single spark can start a prairie fire. He knew what it meant at a glance. But when he read the content, he became more and more shocked. He knew that Aunt Shen Anna's son Shen Huan was now Sulinan's little prince grandson, and Sulinan's king was called Shen Tianfu. But he didn't expect that all of this was a deal between his father and the other party, and the object of the deal was Shen Luo's status in the country. Shen Luo is the oldest child in the village. He is 30 years old this year. He got married 6 years ago and now has 2 children. He always thought that Shen Luo was also Aunt Shen's child, but for various reasons, he couldn't tell him. As a result, now I see that I was totally wrong. Shen Luo is not from his generation at all. Of course, his father does not only have Sulinan as a chess piece, nor does he only have a child like Xiao Wangsun outside. There's also a Pampas eaglet, and there's even Uncle Gu Dongshen, who he always thought was relatively normal, actually had quite a lot of connections hidden behind his back. Not only did he have 6 children at home, but there were 4 outside. And those 4 children were actually older than the 4 in the village. All lists are in this Spark document. The more he looked, the more frightened he became. He knew that his father had deliberately shown this document to him. It's useless to understand it now. Unless you take the last step, the value of this document will be too great. Whether it is joint vertical and horizontal cooperation or unilateral dumping, it can solve huge problems. Whenever there is a problem in the domestic economy, products can be dumped elsewhere or raw materials purchased at low prices. Is there anything in the world that money can't solve? Yes, that's the step. As long as you step out, there will be nothing in the world that cannot be settled. His father has paved the road to this extent, and there is really no reason why he cannot succeed. Whether it takes 20 years or 30 years, as long as it succeeds, this document will no longer be gathering dust in my father's computer and can be taken out openly. He glanced at the history of the document's creation, 20 years ago. At that time, I was only 4 years old. And his father has already started the Spark project. Even if he doesn't come forward, someone else will come forward within a few years. At this time, he thought of what his father said before. His main task is to break the ice. Once the ice is broken, the rest will be easy. Couldn't it be simpler? How much wealth is there? The money and resources in his father's hands were simply ridiculously powerful. No wonder he is willing to engage in loss-making business, even if he loses hundreds of billions a year, without frowning. I'm afraid if he just earns interest, he will earn several trillion in interest every year. Not to mention that the rules are in his hands. If he uses the financial rules casually, he will not be able to spend all his money in dozens of lifetimes. A prodigal? No matter how many prodigal sons there are, I won't be afraid. How much can you lose if you try hard to lose? It's just a drop in the bucket. It's no wonder that my dad encouraged me to go out. It's really impossible to hide this wealth. If he hides any more, the whole world belongs to him, so how can he play with it? Having no opponent is the scariest thing. Because it means that the game cannot continue, and my father becomes the loser. After reading Xingguo's document, his blood boiled. This is a feeling I haven't had in several years. For him, after the age of 13, he began to restrain his personality, and after the age of 15, he did not easily communicate with others. Thinking of those things when he was a child, he wanted to laugh. A perfect explanation of what it means to argue. The older I get, the more I find that I acquire less knowledge and know less about the world, and then I enter the learning stage. Today's document has completely allowed him to graduate from the learning stage. You still have to learn in the future, but every learning is innovation and your own life. Where's Jiangshu? In the study room. Did you use that spark to fool him again? Zhang Yuling knew it too well. This is how Li Jingchen was fooled out by him. Li Jingchen was a little precocious, but his personality was not as calm as Jiangshu's. As a result, when he was in college the year before last, he accidentally saw a Spark file that Li Yuan left on his computer, and then secretly took the national examination. Li Yuan immediately retorted, "How can it be called cheating? Everything I said is true." Zhang Yuling chuckled. Real? Whether it was true or false, could she still know? There are several children in the village, and she knows them better than anyone else. But now at least half of it is gone. What about the half? Where have you gone? You were obviously studying hard here, but why did you suddenly disappear? The so-called little kings and grandsons and Pampas eagles are just things on the surface. Whoever was really guarding against Li Yuan can definitely be found out through investigation. What is hidden in the dark is the most terrifying. Zhang Yuling had read the Spark document several times, and Li Yuan's writing was too conservative. There was no mention of co-author Zhou Qi, right? Qin Zheng doesn't even deserve a full stop, right? Where is Mr. Chen? Where is Xu Tong? Zhang Yuling himself was being watched too closely. It didn't make much sense to have one more child or one less child. So after having Lu Ling, she completely gave up the idea of having another child. She also wanted to live a few more years. But at that time, whether it was Zhou Ranran, Qin Si, Xu Yanlin, or Anna Shen, they were all very young. Even Song Jiajia is only 30 years old. Who allowed this guy to have a child at the age of 19? This is the biggest advantage. At this moment, he is at the peak of his business, and well, heirs have already begun to enter the market. In the whole world, this is an extremely explosive existence. If outsiders know about it, can they let him live? Can he dominate for 100 years? Oh, those children have worked hard. Li Yuan actually owed them something. Zhang Yuling immediately straightened his face and said, "Okay, you don't even want to lie to me now." Sure enough, after the child left, I became irrelevant. Are you going to divorce me next? Li Yuan said angrily, "I'm divorced. I'm already over 40. Where can I get a wife after divorce? The women in the next village who are missing a leg don't even look down on me, who is over 40, an old man who is 10 years old. Besides, I don't have a few cents in my pocket. If I marry a wife, can I afford a bride price? Now every bride price is crazy. At that time, we could make do with 100,000 to 80,000 yuan. We were lucky. You don't have to pay a penny. Now that everyone has money, they can talk about 500,000 and 1 million. Even if you sell me, you won't be able to get that much money. Why don't you give me some? You have a great idea. I won't give you a penny." After saying that, Zhang Yuling threw herself into Li Yuan's arms. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 396. The next morning, Zhang Shu left. Li Yuan got up very early, and so did Zhang Yuling. But Zhang Yuling never wanted to leave the room. When Zhang Shu was about to leave, she went downstairs with red eyes. Zhang Yuling is also the kind of person who is shy about family affection. She rarely tells her children that she loves them. Unlike Li Yuan, he has no idea what shyness is, and even sometimes acts coquettishly towards his children. Li Yuan glanced at the time and said, "The time is almost up. There is still a long way to go. You should hurry up and go." He had to push. Otherwise, Zhang Yuling won't be able to control his emotions later and will definitely cry. "You can't cry now. Who knows if Zhang Shu will suddenly become soft-hearted. I won't cry until I get called back during the Chinese New Year next year, and let Zhang Shu work hard then." Good. Zhang Shu stood up and then said to the people around him, "Grandma, parents, take care of yourselves. I'll call back when I have time." Li Yuan said impatiently, Okay, you are a little brat, how can you come up with so many pretentious words? It is you who should take care of yourself, do we need you to care? Zhang Shu. Okay, now there is no need to speak at all. I wanted to say goodbye to my family properly before leaving, but my father obviously wouldn't let me. Then let's go. He will not regret it now, because he has found a new goal in his life. When he walked out of the door, he found another person standing at the door. It was still early in the morning and it was very cold outside. Zhang Shu said to Guyu, "Why are you here?" Guyu's nose was cold and her eyes were red as she said, "I'll listen to you and study hard. Can you, not leave?" Zhang Shu walked over, reached out and touched her head, and said with a smile, "With or without my supervision, you should study hard. Go back quickly, it's time for me to leave." Guyu cried more. It's okay, let's go." Zhang Shu took his hand away and walked to the car waiting for him. Guyu burst into tears and shouted loudly, "Zhang Shu, can you give me a call in 2 years?" Zhang Shu waved his hand and got into the car without responding. The car started quickly and headed outside. At this time, Li Yuan walked up to Guyu and said, "Little Guyu, what do you mean after 2 years? Do you want to be our daughter-in-law?" Guyu cried and nodded. Li Yuan smiled and said, "Okay, you can come to my house from now on, and I will take the opportunity to ask your father for some living expenses, which will be used as dowry. Guyu. She felt that her dowry would be spent by Uncle Lu. Can I not stay? Hee, that's not okay. You just agreed to it yourself. Finding a daughter-in-law to go home would also help Zhang Yuling recover faster. What bad intentions could an old man in his 40s have? It was nothing more than getting some pocket money and secretly giving it to Li Wanhee to make the old couple happy. In fact, money is not important. Li Wanhee saved so much gold last time, but when he took it out to calm the market, the old man didn't eat for a whole day. Although I am still saving money now, it is just a habit. After so many years, he also knew that Li Yuan had already made arrangements for the children, so there was no need for him to save money. But Li Wanhee will feel uncomfortable if he doesn't save some money now. Habits are something that can kill people. Li Yuan took Guyu to the house, and Zhou Wan hurriedly started making breakfast. I made it just now, but I only made one portion for Jiangshu. Li Yuan saw Zhou Wan busy, and suddenly felt that he had neglected something. He hurried back to the study and called Jiangshu. Son, don't keep your grandparents waiting too long. They are almost 70. At first, he only thought about himself and Zhang Yuling. In fact, Zhou Wan and Li Wanhee love Jiangshu no less than their parents. They may not be able to last for 30 years, or even 20 years. At their age, it's time to know their destiny, and it could happen at any time. Now, the real pressure was passed to Jiangshu. Jiangshu was silent for a long time before saying, okay. After Jiangshu left, the whole family fell into an atmosphere of coaxing Zhang Yuling. For half a month, Zhang Yuling's mood was not very good. Fortunately, Guyu comes back occasionally, and high school vacation is about to begin, so Lu Ling will be back soon. Li Yuan acted as a scoundrel in the village as always. As the new year approaches, many people have returned. For example, Qin Sheng, who has been working at Nanshan Group, went home early to celebrate the new year. Li Yuan walked to Qin Si that day, opened the door and walked in, and saw Qin Sheng helping to make bacon in the yard. The food made by Qin Si is really delicious, and Li Yuan takes a lot of it every year. Xiao Sheng, where are your wife and children? Why didn't you bring them back? Qin Sheng has been married for several years, but due to work reasons, his wife and children are away from home. As for whether there are other reasons, it's hard to say. Qin Sheng was one of the few third-generation people who knew Li Yuan's identity. He hurriedly said, Uncle Lu, they won't be back for 2 days. You can sit in the room first. As Li Yuan walked inside, he said angrily, you guys, you always called me dad when you were a kid. Qin Sheng called his father for more than 10 years, but he stopped calling him when he grew up. Qin Sheng smiled awkwardly and did not answer. He immediately followed Li Yuan into the house and poured Li Yuan a cup of tea. Sitting on the sofa and not seeing Qin Si, Li Yuan asked, where is your mother? Mom said to go to the factory and have a look and come back later. Li Yuan asked, then why didn't you go? He really wanted to say that it would be fine if Qin Liang came over and there was no need for him. But he could be emotional on weekdays, but he really didn't dare to face Li Yuan. This is the main artery of the global economy. It's not an exaggeration to say something about God. It's just that killing gods is popular now, so this god can only hide in his hometown. Even so, everyone in his hometown has to listen to his arrangements. Gu Dongsheng is indeed very popular outside, but when he returns to the village, he can't be ranked. In the past years, I have only seen Gu Dongsheng come out for the first time to pay New Year greetings from door to door, but I have never seen my mother coming out from door to door. Li Yuan pointed to the seat next to him and said, sit down first. I'm not an outsider. Do I need to stand? Hey, okay. Qin Sheng sat on the sofa obediently. Li Yuan asked, You are following your uncle Chen Chi now, right? Are you responsible for security? Yes, mainly responsible for Uncle Gu's security. Li Yuan continued to ask, then do you have a gun? Qin Sheng was stunned at the time. Why did Li Yuan ask this? Who dares to bring a gun into the village? Yes, but I put it in the company safe before I came back. Li Yuan, how about your shooting skills? This is okay. He has been training outside with Chen Chi for half a year, and his current position is not low, and he can be regarded as one of the most respected people by Chen Chi. And he is the youngest, only 30 years old this year. Li Yuan smiled and said, your marksmanship is definitely not as good as mine. Someone was holding a hostage. In less than a second, I drew my gun and fired. The dagger the enemy put on the hostage's neck was gone. React to Qin Sheng. He already knew what happened. Was it just Li Yuan's hand? Wasn't it Zhang Yuling's hand? No matter what, he hurriedly said, Uncle Lu, I am indeed not as good as you. Li Yuan shook his head, that's not what I'm asking, but I want to ask you whether what I did was right. After a moment of silence, Qin Sheng lowered his head and said, yes. Li Yuan stood up and said with a smile, your mother told me that some people around you have been talking nonsense in the past few years. In this case, I will simply tell you clearly. Qin Sheng panicked, stood up and lowered his head and said, Uncle Lu, I really didn't think about anything else. But Li Yuan didn't give him a chance at all, and continued, don't rush to explain. It was indeed your Aunt Zhang who did that incident, but her doing it is no different from me. That guy deserves to die. Even if he is your biological father. Qin Sheng was shocked. Li Yuan continued, if you want revenge, you can come here at any time. I didn't bring anything today. You, a 30-year-old young man, can't defeat me, an old man in his 40s, right? Li Yuan laughed when he saw Qin Sheng shaking all over and clenching his fists. You think you have the strength? You are welcome to come back and trouble me at any time. You don't have to worry about anything, I won't target you in advance. You can take your gun, and I will allow you to come back with the gun. Uncle Lu, is it useless no matter how I explain? I really don't take that matter to heart. Then what are you doing with your fists? Want to hit me? Why are you so cowardly? You don't even have the courage to hit someone, and you have lived like a dog for so many years. Qin Sheng's expression was twisted. Li Yuan continued, I have lived for 30 years, living like a pig. Do you believe what others say? If I didn't kill your father back then, do you think you can live until now? You have raised 20 for nothing. For many years, it was just a waste of my rice. You spend all day fighting with your parents, brothers, and sisters. Qin Sheng, ask yourself, are you worthy? Are you worthy of your current life? I am not a good person either. Too many people have died at my hands. Who have I been afraid of? I dare to raise you from childhood to adulthood without fear of your revenge. If I die in the hands of a coward like you, I deserve to die? Doesn't your mother only have Qin Feng? This brand is now worth hundreds of billions. Since you want it, I will give you the factory and transfer the shares to you tomorrow. I have never seen such a useless person like you. A broken company can create a gap between you and your brothers and sisters, and even create resentment and estrangement against your parents who have raised you for so many years. You have been with me since I was a child. Others don't know my identity, but you still don't know it? Thank you for not calling me daddy. If you did, I would be embarrassed. Do you think there is anyone in the village who has the same virtue as you? I raised all of them, how come nothing happened to them? Why did something happen to you? Don't think that anyone in this world owes you. I even dare to tell you that your own mother was killed by your own father. You have no blood relationship with any of us. If you don't like to come back, no one will care about you. Having said this, Li Yuan glanced at the door and saw that Qin Si was back. He continued to say to Qin Sheng, "Your mother is back, just in time for her to transfer the shares to you. Then you take the shares and get out, and don't come back again." The second half of the sentence happened to be heard by Qin Si, who had just entered. She felt nervous and said quickly, "What happened?" Qin Sheng was about to speak, but Li Yuan said first, "Nothing. Qin Sheng feels that he is not your biological child, and feels that you want to leave all the family property to your biological children, which makes him feel unbalanced. By the way, he also wants to give it to him. My father wants to take revenge and prepares to kill me." As soon as Qin Si heard this, he hurriedly came to Qin Sheng, stared at Qin Sheng, and asked, "Xiao Sheng, do you really think so?" Qin Sheng's whole body was about to explode. He is not a fool. What good will it do to him if he kills Li Yuan? He knows better than anyone else that everything he has now was given by these two people in front of him, and they really treat him as their own child. I just feel that I don't have much money in my hand. In the future, my mother will definitely leave the family property to her younger brothers and sisters, not to herself, which makes me feel a little uncomfortable." But he didn't do anything. His mother called him and asked him to go home, and he came back without saying a word. When you manage thousands of people outside, why don't you just help your mother bake bacon when you get home? As a result, he was provoked a lot, and now Li Yuan is still framing him. "Mom, I didn't. He will die of grievance. I got scolded a lot for no reason, and now I have to take the blame." Li Yuan raised his voice and said, emotionally, "Do you mean that I am lying? What is my identity, and what is your identity?" Qin Sheng was helpless. "Aren't you just lying?" But he couldn't afford to offend either of the two in front of him, and he didn't dare to offend either of them. He never had any bad thoughts towards Qin Si. He had memories of it when he was a child, and knew how difficult the situation was, but his mother still never gave up on him. Li Yuan suddenly lay down on the sofa, covered his heart and said, "Oh, I can't do it anymore, I can't do it anymore." Qin Si was panicked by Li Yuan, and hurriedly came to the side and asked concernedly, "What's wrong? What's wrong with you?" Qin Sheng also came over and asked, "Do you want me to call the doctor?" As a result, Li Yuan stared at him and said, "Who knows if you are going to take the opportunity to kill me?" After that, he hugged Qin Si and said, "Sisi, let's transfer the company to him. We are old and can't stand the trouble. Give it to him if he wants it. It doesn't matter to me, but I don't want to let him. You are hurt." At this moment, Qin Sheng finally couldn't help it anymore and said loudly, "Uncle Lu, don't frame me. When did I say such a thing?" As a result, Li Yuan pointed at him and said to Qin Si, Look, he dares to yell at me now. He doesn't even take me seriously. Does he still care about you? Give it to me quickly, give it to me quickly." Qin Si comforted Li Yuan and said, "Qin Sheng, go to my study and bring me the contract I drafted. I will sign it now and you can get it notarized yourself." Qin Sheng was about to cry, "Mom, I really don't want it." But Qin Si was resolute, "Give it to you, give it all to you. If you want anything else, just tell me that even if I don't have it, I will find a way to get it for you. Don't come back again." End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 397. Qin Sheng really never thought that he would have to face this scene. He obviously didn't do anything, but he was forced to go to jail by Li Yuan. He knelt down directly to Qin Si and cried, "Mom, I really don't want it. If you let me go, I will leave immediately. You gave me this life. You can do it whenever you want. If I can take it back, why would I want anything from you?" His mood was shattered by Li Yuan. He has liked Li Yuan very much since he was a child, and Li Yuan was very patient when teaching him. But now, he has never hated Li Yuan so much in these years. At this time, Li Yuan was still stirring up trouble and said, "Sisi, this guy said this on purpose because he was afraid that others would gossip. If you don't give it to him, you might know how he will resent us." Qin Sheng. Mom, what should I do to make you believe it? I dare not have any other ideas. You're still acting. You were just about to hit me. Li Yuan's voice was like a reminder. Qin Sheng gritted his teeth, and when he saw Qin Si standing next to him with firm eyes, he said, "Mom, whether you believe it or not, I swear that I don't have this idea." Qin Si suddenly closed his eyes and said desperately, "Xiao Sheng, take your things and leave. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. As long as Qin Sheng and Li Yuan have irreconcilable conflicts, she can only choose Li Yuan. There is no other choice." Qin Sheng was completely desperate. He kowtowed heavily, and then said resolutely, "You let me go, I have to go. But I don't want anything else. I'm already a big man. If I can't be by your side to serve you, it's unfilial, and I have no shame in taking anything from you." After saying that, he turned around and strode out of the yard. At this time, Li Yuan said, "He knows the truth." Qin Si. With a sigh, Qin Si said helplessly, "Why do you have to stimulate him? He has been a little sensitive recently. It's just that he's too sensitive. I want to penetrate him directly, lest he still doesn't understand after living for 30 years. But what to do now? Drive people away all at once?" Li Yuan said with a smile, "The boy is willing to leave? Let alone talking about family property or not, how can he really be willing to leave you? Do you believe it or not, he will have to come back secretly tonight." Qin Si was a little surprised. Li Yuan knew Qin Sheng so well? She thought she knew Qin Sheng best, but she didn't expect that Li Yuan would immediately plot against Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng was indeed disturbed by outside information and was a little unfamiliar with his younger brothers and sisters. But for Qin Si, he didn't dare to complain at all. Li Yuan continued, "You are not allowed to stand on his side at night." Qin thought for a moment and said nothing, acquiescing. After eating at Qin Si's side, Li Yuan went back. His whereabouts were not a secret in the village, so Qin Sheng, who was outside the village, knew about it immediately. He asked his friends and found out that Li Yuan did not go out after returning home. Generally speaking, Li Yuan would not come out at night, especially when the weather was so cold. So, after it got a little dark, he entered the village and said hello to Chen Qi. Slowly arriving at the door of his house, he was ready to have a few words with his mother. Seeing that the lights were still on in the living room, he didn't hesitate and walked in immediately. Then, he found Li Yuan sitting on the sofa in the living room. He subconsciously turned around and left. As a result, Li Yuan said, "What's wrong? You want to come back in the middle of the night to silence me, right? I've known for a long time that you have bad intentions. I raised you so big in vain." Qin Sheng turned his back to Li Yuan and frowned. He is really annoying. Why does this guy speak so harshly? What is silencing? Does he have the courage? He walked out minding his own business, but Li Yuan shouted again, "Come back quickly and sign the contract, so that you won't worry about the family's money after you leave." Finally, Qin Sheng couldn't bear it anymore and turned to Li Yuan and shouted, "How many times do you have to tell me, I'm not doing it for money? If you have money, all the money in the world belongs to you. You have nothing to do with me, it has nothing to do with it." Li Yuan, haha, then why are you anxious? Others are whispering in your ears that your mother wants to leave the property to your younger brothers and sisters. Why are you uncomfortable? You also know that I have money. This little money, I don't take it seriously at all. If you want it, just take it, there's no need to show off in front of me. I brought you up since you were a kid, how can I still not understand you? Qin Sheng was speechless for a moment. He wanted to defend himself, but there were some things he just couldn't say. Because what Li Yuan said is right. I don't care about money, why should I feel grudge over this matter? He knew the reason, but he didn't dare to say that. He was afraid that speaking out would chill his mother. Hurry up and sign. Since you also called me daddy, I won't argue with you about this matter. But don't even think about stepping into the village gate in the future. I will have all the data about you deleted. Everyone in the village has data saved, and there are records of who enters and leaves the village every day. Once Qin Sheng's relevant data is deleted, he will really not be able to come back in the future. You can drive me away, but I have to come back to see my mother, so, you can't delete my data. Then what if you come back in the middle of the night and want to kill me? These are the rules of the village, and I risk my own life to play with you. You. Qin Sheng did not expect that he would have to explain what he would not do to Li Yuan again. Just think of me as begging you, okay? I have no intention of harming anyone. I know there was nothing wrong with that incident back then. I also want to thank you for saving my life. Li Yuan, I don't need the thanks from you, a white-eyed wolf. The 10 million I spent was just like feeding my dogs. Qin Sheng was helpless. You can scold me all you want, but I must come back to see my mother, and no one can stop me. I want to stop you. What? You want to fight with me? Qin Si, who was in the room downstairs, heard the conversation between the two clearly. She gritted her teeth. Yes, he was angry at Li Yuan's words. Li Yuan's mouth was really unforgiving at all. Who among the reasonable people in the world can be more reasonable than this guy? He is absolutely top-notch when it comes to messing around. Qin Sheng, why are you so hypocritical? What is there to hide about your love for money? I will give it to you as I say, and the contract is ready. Is there anyone in the world whose words are more valuable than mine? Just a mere more than 100 billion, do you think I can judge how heavy it is? Qin Sheng really didn't want to hear Li Yuan continue talking. He felt like his brain was going to explode. How could there be such a person in the world? Every word he said was aggressive and wanted to drive people to death. I'll say it for the last time, I'm really not here for money. I just want to come back and see my mom. I just want to do my best to repay my mom for what she has done for me. Who believes it? Then how about I die? I'm going to die in front of you now, you should believe it, right? Qin Sheng was trembling all over. After hearing this, Qin Si finally couldn't help it and ran out of the room. If this continues, Qin Sheng will be driven crazy. When she ran out, Qin Sheng immediately cried and hugged Qin Si, saying aggrievedly, "Mom, I really never thought about it that way." A 30-year-old man cried like a child. Qin Si also shed tears. "Mom knows, you are not that kind of person. Then can I come back to see you later? Or I can take you to my place." Before Qin Si could speak, Li Yuan scolded, you. Please explain your own affairs clearly first. You don't even dare to admit your mistakes. Who will believe you in the future? If you can't say anything, get out of here. In this family, I have the final say, and no one else has any say. I just feel like mom doesn't care about me as much as before. For a 30-year-old man to say something like this is not only a psychological test, but also a test of his face. When he said this, on the one hand, he would chill his family, and on the other hand, he would be ashamed of himself. Qin Si immediately said with a straight face, "When did mom stop caring about you? When you were out all these years, how could I not worry about you? Although I didn't talk to you every day, how could I not ask about your wife and children? Ask about the situation." This sentence made Qin Sheng lower his head in shame. "I'm just getting older and don't have as much energy as before. I didn't expect that I was still blamed. As Qin Si spoke, a sad look appeared on his face, and tears flowed down uncontrollably. She pushed Qin Sheng away, turned around, and went to the room lonely. Qin Sheng stood there at a loss. He felt that he had said the most stupid thing in the world. He wanted to chase after him, but found that Qin Si had already closed the door. The figure of Qin Si leaving just now really made Qin Sheng's heart stop beating. I have never been so suffocated. Li Yuan sat on the sofa. He could understand Qin Si. To put it bluntly, this family is nothing more than missing a backbone. Qin Si is quite doting on her children. Unlike Zhou Ranran, who is strict with the children, although a bit old-fashioned, the children at least know how to help each other. In any family, there is always someone who plays the role of the bad guy. After getting married, parents need to play the role of bad guy, so that the relationship between the young couple will be good. Although it could be worse, it is not a problem of strategy, but a problem of the people themselves. Between children, parents need to play the role of the bad guy, so that the children can be more united and friendly, and will not get jealous or even fight among themselves because of trivial matters. Qin Si is just too good to her children, making them overly dependent on her and even becoming attached to her. Referred to as mummy boy. Qin Sheng is a genuine mama's boy. Fortunately, he is a clear-headed person, and even if he does have emotions sometimes, he can control them. After all, he has been taught by Li Yuan for so many years. If his mind is not clear, he will be useless. Li Yuan did not intervene much as a father, which was also one of the main reasons. Qin Si is impeccable whether it is scheming or otherwise, but it is not enough when it comes to dealing with children's issues. Many large families eventually fell apart because of disunity among their descendants. Li Yuan has done his best, but there will inevitably be some mistakes. Mom, I was wrong, I'm sorry. Qin Sheng cried and knelt at the door. But Qin Si didn't respond at all. At this time, Li Yuan did not continue to argue, but said, "Your mother has actually wanted to give the company to you for a long time, and she also wanted to retire. But I stopped her. I think the brand Qin Feng, you don't have a big future. It's better to let you train hard in Nanshan Group and take over your Uncle Chen Chi's class in the future. I have even prepared shares of Nanshan Group for you. Although it is not much, only 2 points, it is still better than the Qin Feng clothing brand as a whole is worth several times more." Qin Sheng couldn't speak when he heard this. Li Yuan continued, "I know that you were wronged by my aggressive words before. But you must also understand that others are also wronged by your behavior, and they are all the people closest to you. Your younger brothers and sisters, they are still young, some are in high school, some are in college, and some are even abroad. If you, the older brother, don't take the initiative to unite them, how can you expect a group of them to unite you? Then how can you, the older brother, be the one to unite them? Do you think you have been wronged? Your brother Qin Zheng has not been wronged. He is only 21 years old and has been away from his mother for more than 4 years. Have you ever thought about his current situation? You haven't even beaten him a few times. I called him and didn't even ask him how he was doing there. Since you can't set a good example, then go away with more than 100 billion. This money is enough to keep you clothed and fed for a lifetime, and even the next 2 or 3 generations will not be short of money. We can't control what happens after 3 generations. We would have been buried long ago by that time." Li Yuanyu said. Qin Sheng became more ashamed. "Ashamed of your actions?" If Li Yuan came up and said these words to him, he might not feel as deeply as he does now. He also has blind spots and locks in his heart. Li Yuan forced him to open the lock. Only in this way could he seriously think about the matter. Li Yuan never lacks patience. Qin Sheng knelt there and waited slowly. He himself was reflecting. The second generation has almost finished their education, and the third generation has begun to arrive one after another. His educational methods also need to be further improved. With his energy, he can only educate one more generation, and the fourth generation will have to be replaced. He will write down all his experiences and select people from the second generation to inherit them. Half an hour passed. An hour passed. An hour and a half passed. Qin Sheng finally moved. But he came to Li Yuan, knelt down directly, and said, "Dad, I know I let you down, and I'm sorry for your upbringing. I only ask you one thing now, please go see Mom, please help." I begged in front of her and begged her to forgive me. Li Yuan sighed and said, "No one forgives anyone. No matter any conflict between a family, there are reasons to resolve it. Your mother has reasons to be angry with you, but she also has reasons not to be angry with you. You should be happy, you controlled your emotions and didn't make things worse. Once you lose control and have friction with your younger siblings, everything is irreversible." At that time, Qin Sheng had to leave, and even a few children, Li Yuan would let them leave. No one wants to see that kind of situation. "Yes, I will definitely remember Dad's teachings. Go and do your thing. I'll stay here tonight. Remember to bring your wife and children back tomorrow. I miss those two little guys too." End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 398. Qin Sheng began to take the initiative to communicate with his younger brothers and sisters, and even called Qin Zheng, who was far abroad. As the eldest brother, and even the oldest in the true sense of the second generation in the entire village, he should have done this long ago. But he was so spoiled since he was a child that he didn't realize it at all. Li Yuan has given him heavy medicine this time. How far he can go depends entirely on him. Li Yuan has many people to choose from. There are more than 60 children in this group in the village, and there are more than 40 who are still here. Of course, he contributed the most. As the Chinese New Year approaches, those who are studying in college are the first to come back, followed closely by elementary school, junior high school, and high school. Li Yuan has several groups in his hands, ranging from elementary school to university, and even a special graduation group. As long as you go from junior high school to high school, you will be kicked out of the junior high school group and invited to the high school group. The same goes for going from high school to college. In all the groups, except for the elder Li Yuan, there is no one else. Li Yuan chats with many people in the group every day, asks about their situation, and then sends out red envelopes. He has told all parents that they are not allowed to give pocket money to their children. He must pay for the pocket money. Only by mastering pocket money can you master the emotions of these little guys. The college students began to go home, and Li Yuan naturally stood guard at the entrance of the village. A slim female college student is back, stylishly dressed and very good looking. Li Yuan stood guard at the second gate of the village, eating melon seeds, and said, "I said, Gu Man, you are studying in college outside. Why don't you bring some local specialties to your uncle when you come back?" Gu Man spread his hands and said, "Then I also need to be rich. I will give you living expenses every month, and I will have to find someone to pay for everything else." Li Yuan immediately said, "You are talking nonsense. Your sister's living expenses are the same as yours. Why does she bring me things?" Gu Man was shocked and asked, "Does she still have pocket money to bring you something?" Li Yuan pointed to the plate of melon seeds in front of him and said, "Look, this is what she brought me. Dad must be biased." Li Yuan smiled and did not respond, but moved a chair and said, "Sit here for a while, I will ask you something." Gu Man quickly said, "We're not talking about a boyfriend. Who asked you this? Besides, when did they forbid you from having a boyfriend?" Li Yuan pointed to the chair again. Gu Man had no choice but to sit down and said, "Does this need to be said?" The whole village said that I am going to marry Jiangshu. Gu Man didn't care about others, but his father also acquiesced in that way. Even though she didn't have any feelings for Jiangshu, she still could only wait. After all, she knew very well the strength of the middle-aged man in front of her. However, she has an arrogant temperament and always talks about something when talking to Li Yuan, and Li Yuan is never angry. It's all nonsense. No one in the world stipulates that anyone must marry whom. When it comes to relationships, liking yourself is always the most important prerequisite. Besides, Jiangshu has gone to serve as a soldier and will probably rarely come back in the future. Gu Man's eyes lit up. Really? Can this be fake? Feel free to fall in love. I guarantee that no one will gossip. Gu Man laughed on the spot. Is spring coming for me? Li Yuan. He actually really wanted Gu Man to be his daughter-in-law. This girl had a very lovable personality and it was not difficult at all to communicate with her. But, you can't force this thing. Li Yuan asked, then tell me what kind of boy you like. Gu Man asked with a smile, truth or lie? Of course it's the truth. Are you sitting here with me in the cold just to listen to you tell lies? Gu Man immediately said, actually, I like Uncle Li like this. Li Yuan, ahem, Uncle Lu, Uncle Lu. In the next generation, no one will know his real name, and there are still many people in Gu Man's generation who have slipped through the cracks. Gu Man chuckled and said, what I want most is that my boyfriend will be very powerful, and I will be by his side to help him. As a couple, we will be invincible in the world. Li Yuan said angrily, just you? That three-legged cat's ability is useless. If you can't read well, what else can you do? You are different from others. Others may face various problems while studying. Dilemma, for you, studying is the simplest thing. If you can't do such a simple thing well, how can you do other things well? Gu Man defended, I'm just not good at studying. What I'm good at is doing business and criticizing Fang Qiu. Besides, my academic performance is not bad. Haha, it's not bad. In the entire compound, there aren't many people who are worse than you. Of course, some people who behave badly are not included. Who messed it up? Zhou Fanchu, not only did you mess up your job, but you also kidnapped a good young talent that I was interested in. Of course Gu Man knew who Zhou Fanchu's boyfriend was, so he held his tongue and said, that guy Hong Ruiting is not a good young man, he is not as good as me. Li Yuan said, at least I can still work on projects while falling in love. One project sold for 5 million. Really? Doesn't that mean, that guy is rich? I have to ask him to borrow some money. I have already thought of a project, but I am short of startup funds. Li Yuan. We talked about our feelings for a long time, but this girl just didn't listen, right? She just never suffered a loss. After all, with Gu Dongshen here, no one could bully her. Okay, go and borrow it from him. It's a ghost if you can borrow it. Will Zhou Fanchu let me borrow it? Although Zhou Fanchu disliked this and that all day long, Hong Ruiting's money was just as important as hers, even more important than his own. She might be able to borrow her own money, but don't want a penny of Hong Ruiting's money. Before graduating from college, all parents will not give much pocket money. Even if the currency has depreciated now, each person's living expenses will be at most 5,000 yuan per month. The current per capita salary is around 20,000, which is actually not high overall. But basically everyone has offloaded their mortgages from decades ago. Those who are still under mortgage loan pressure have entered the market blindly in the past 10 years and do not deserve sympathy. Another point is that although you don't earn much at home, you earn even less abroad. Driving screws starts with 18,000 yuan a month, and many odd jobs earn more than 10,000 yuan a month. It is self-evident what the results will be. Many people from abroad will come here to make a profit. In the past, the world's currency exchange rates were based on the US dollar, but that is no longer the case. Comparing the various exchange rates, overall the Chinese currency is the strongest. The reason is that Huaxia coin can buy anything you want, which is why the US dollar's global currency share is gradually being eroded. And when those people from abroad come, they have to stay, right? Those houses that were built more than 10 or 20 years ago are now good places to rent because they are cheap. It is equivalent to an urban village more than 20 years ago. Even for some houses whose mortgages have not been paid off, the current rent can cover the previous mortgages. Similarly, it was because of the expansion of the rental market that Li Yuan was able to push Nanshan Group to expand its scale and build residences, shopping malls, and restaurants across the country. How did the economy develop? In fact, it is very simple. When business flows, the economy will not boast. When there are problems with real estate, the main reason is that demand drops and no one buys it. If no one buys it, no one will build it. If no one builds it, no one will receive wages. There is no place to receive money from land sales, no way to invest in public infrastructure, and no way to obtain greater tax revenue. Li Yuan transformed all the previous properties into old urban areas, so there was naturally a demand for new urban areas. It can be said that during the most difficult years for domestic real estate, Nanshan Group single-handedly supported it. Otherwise, how could the economy be so dynamic and explode with such great power? But now more than 10 years have passed, and many problems have arisen again. For example, Nanshan Group can no longer expand, and demand is decreasing simultaneously. For example, many people in China are unwilling to work. After all, it is easier to work in the service industry for 20,000 to 30,000 yuan a month than to work in a factory for more than 20,000 yuan a month. In addition, Huaxia coin has gradually taken a dominant position in the global trading system. Many products produced domestically have no cost performance and have to be transferred abroad. Li Yuan knows this best. Many of the companies he supports have built factories abroad. There is nothing you can do about it. After all, there are better choices. Who wants to do the hard work? As for raising blue-collar wages, I can't lift it up at all. Furthermore, the factory will lose money, and the cost of the products will soar in the market, making them no longer competitive at all. It can only shift to high-end, but there are too many people in China. Even if it successfully transitions to high-end, it will not be able to provide so many jobs. The consumer base for high-end products is limited. Judging from the current situation, as long as the country has a certain level of consumption power, the United States has only one last option, linking the US dollar to food. Their consumption capacity is simply not good enough. There are only 3 steps to take in the beautiful country. The first step was financial technology hegemony, and the result was sunset. In order to maintain their position as a financial leader, they moved out the obsolete US dollar gold system in an attempt to rely on their own gold reserves to continue to maintain their position. That is the second step, the golden harvest system. As a result, Li Wanhe's hoarding of more than 1,000 tons of gold disrupted the market. It only lasted a few years and the gold output increased, so naturally it had little power. At present, they are following 2 paths together, a small number of technology industries, and resource trade through a large number of minerals. The beautiful country is now the world's largest resource exporter. Compared with more than 10 years ago, the scale of resource exports has expanded 6 times. They also have a trump card, which is food. After all, if they use all their power, their annual grain output will definitely be the first in the world, or even far ahead. But reaching that point means they completely abandon the existing financial system. Li Yuan waited for several hours at the second gate of the village and received several college students who were returning home. Then there is nothing to do today. After I got home, I quickly drank 2 glasses of water. I was really thirsty from eating melon seeds. Zhang Yuling didn't know how to describe Li Yuan. He said he should retire, but he still had to deal with a lot of things all day long. You said you are not retired. What do you do all day long? You should wander around during the day and work at night. The biggest job every day is to have fun with a group of children. She took out a document and said, I have already prepared the charter for this year's meeting. Please see if there is anything else to add. Li Yuan took it over and took a look. This is prepared every year, and there are more projects every year. I used to have a meeting and it would be done in an hour or two, and I could play cards and drink tea in the rest of the time. What now? 7 or 8 hours a night on New Year's Eve was simply not enough, and he could make 2 trips to the toilet. He is pretty good. Some guys urinate frequently and can run back and forth 10 times. There is no doubt that new projects will be added this year. The original plan was to hold the meeting at 10 o'clock in the evening on New Year's Eve, but this year it had to be held at 8 o'clock and lasted until 6 o'clock in the morning on the first day of the new year. Let's pay dividends this year. Due to some incidents in the past few years, the family fund did not pay dividends, but only reported everyone's income, which is equivalent to compound interest. Zhang Yuling asked, can there still be dividends? Everyone feels that the market is not good, and there will be no dividends in the future. She said what everyone really thought. In fact, over the years, everyone has their own industries, and their incomes are not low. Throughout the year, even the poorest person in the village will have no problem earning several hundred million. Compared with the little money from family funds, it is not important. It is nothing more than a bond, but now that they have cooperated deeply with each other, the importance of the bond has been reduced a lot. In addition, the foreign market has been getting worse in recent years, and Li Yuan did not spend much energy, leaving Anna Shen to do it by herself. It is normal that there will be no profit. How could there be no dividends? I will pay them all at once this year. I can't tell if I will divide them later. Because I really don't have the energy to arrange those. There is a high probability that the subsequent dividends will not be very impressive, so everyone should be prepared. Prepare. Zhang Yuling was stunned. Why did you suddenly say such things? Li Yuan said with a smile, because I have found a successor. After this year, I will officially retire and completely retire. Huh? Don't you care about anything? Of course I have to take care of your affairs and the children's affairs. Even if I am half body in the coffin, I still have to take care of what should be taken care of. But I will not take care of business matters. Give me an extra hour for this meeting this year. I'll take care of all the work. Do you want it sooner or later? Come early. Send the money first, and then I will start arranging work. For other projects, just listen and give them time. Then what? No more. I'll dress up a little and let's go out and play for a while. No. I won't go out with you. Oh, then I'll find someone else. Li Yuan's words immediately made Zhang Yuling blush. Li Yuan took her hand and said, daughter-in-law, it's time to let it go. Let me tell you this, at this moment, even if both of us are gone, this day will not fall. End of chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 399. The Chinese New Year is getting closer and closer, and even if some people want to take advantage of the holidays to travel for a few days, they will come back one after another before and after the Chinese New Year. There are now more than 200 people in the whole village, which is quite lively. Almost all the villas were full and even felt crowded. But this generation is okay, and there should be no family separation within at least 10 years. In 10 years we will definitely not be able to live there anymore. Zhou Fanshu came over, followed by Hong Ruiting. He didn't come to see Li Yuan, but mainly came to see Li Wanhe, with wine in his hand. No, before Li Yuan could react, Li Wanhe started laughing and walked directly to the door. Fanshu is here. Li Wanhe squinted his eyes and looked at the 2 bottles of wine brought by Zhou Fanshu. This is his ration for a year. It was almost impossible to drink on weekdays, but what his granddaughter brought was different. Even Li Yuan didn't dare to stop him. At most, he would just let him take a few sips less. Grandpa, Hong Ruoding made money this year and bought you 2 bottles of good wine. After saying that, she whispered in Li Wanhe's ear, the big bottle is worth the usual 10 bottles. Haha, our Fanshu is the only one who can feel sorry for others, come in and sit down. Zhou Fanshu smiled and sat on the sofa, with Hong Ruoding standing next to him. Li Yuan's liver hurt when he saw it. Why is this guy acting like a dog? In other words, the marriage between Zhou Fanshu and Hong Ruoding was already confirmed, otherwise he would really want to kick this guy Hong Ruoding. Li Wanhe also said quickly, Ruoding, please sit down quickly, we are not outsiders. Hey, okay. Hong Ruoding responded with a simple smile. Li Yuan said angrily, why are you so cowardly? You do the most hard work, why do you act like a follower? Hong Ruoding did not answer, but Zhou Fanshu said, Uncle Lu, Hong Ruoding is a gentleman. Li Yuan, what a gentleman. The British Empire is about to perish, and what a gentleman. The strong will always be strong. This is the main theme of the whole world. If you don't have that much ability, don't be so big. Bold to avoid suffering losses in the future. Even if it was his own daughter, Li Yuan criticized her without hesitation. Zhou Fanshu has not done too much now. It doesn't matter what he does in private. At least in public, he has never made things difficult for Hong Ruoding to show off his family status. If she dared to do that, Li Yuan would beat her up on the spot. Zhou Fanshu muttered, anyway, he did it voluntarily, not at my request. Hong Ruoding smiled apologetically and said, yes, Uncle Lu, I really did it voluntarily. I am already very happy that Fanshu can be my girlfriend. Li Yuan. He really doesn't like playing against the wind. Okay, you volunteer. You can stay here for lunch. When Lu Ling comes back, let her play with you. I have nothing in common with you. He knew the dog-licking industry very well in his previous life, but he really had no experience in this life. He had nothing to talk about with the 2 of them. The 2 of them would graduate from college in 2 years, so there was no need for any additional instructions. It's nothing more than a relationship issue. Li Yuan has tried his best after teaching Hong Ruoding so many times. You can't force yourself to tell you how to do it, that would be unrealistic and not beneficial at all. There are a lot of people coming over for lunch today. They have been visiting from house to house these days. Except for some people who have a lot of things to do, most people have already put down their work. Li Yuan came to the study and called Hong Ruoding over after a while. After letting Hong Ruoding sit down, he said, Ruoding, tell me honestly, have you got anything into Fanshu's hands? I've watched you grow up, and you used to be very independent. Since the college entrance examination, the whole person has gone astray. You can obviously go to Qingbei University or even Zhangzhou University, but you insist on going to study finance in Shanghai University. What are you trying to do? Hong Ruoding was a little restless, and Li Yuan knew that something was wrong. Hurry up and tell me the truth. Don't force me to use the intelligence department to investigate. Let me investigate and find out. It won't be a good thing for you. Not to mention your parents, even your grandfather won't dare to say anything wrong. Hong Ruoding had no choice but to say, Uncle Lu, I made some mistakes. Huh? What mistake did you make? Hooking up with others outside. Hong Ruoding, no. It was that summer vacation, I accidentally made some mistakes with Fan Shu. Li Yuan. Good boy, you really have the same demeanor as I did back then. Absolutely workable material. Is Fan Shu pregnant? Li Yuan's words immediately confused Hong Ruiting. What? Is this what elders should say? No, no. Li Yuan suddenly felt disappointed. He thought they both had children outside. Qin Sheng is the only one who is married now, but Qin Sheng is not his biological son after all, so his children still lack some blood relationship. Li Jingcheng is married, but his girlfriend is still in college. If she wants to have a child, she has to wait until at least her senior year of college next year, otherwise it won't be good for Li Jingcheng. Due to various reasons, Zhou Mo is not married yet, probably after the new year. Anyway, he felt that none of these children looked like him. How good he is, he has 2 children at the age of 20, and 5 children at the age of 22. When he first heard Hong Ruiting say these words, he really saw his own shadow, but he turned out to be a squib. Have you ever gone for a checkup? Is it your problem or Fan Shu's? Hong Ruiting. Could he say that he couldn't get anything done because he was too nervous at that time? Only. That should not be a physical problem. Li Yuan slapped the table, startling Hong Ruiting. Then you two haven't worked hard in the past 2 years? Your grandfather is over 90, who knows how many years he still has to live. Hurry up and let the 5 generations of your family live together. Hong Ruiting wants to cry. Li Yuan's image was completely overturned in his heart. Uncle Lu, you can't rush this matter. We are still studying, and I am not old enough to get the certificate. Both of them are 20 years old. Zhou Fanshu is old enough, but Hong Ruiting is not yet. Li Yuan would not listen to such nonsense, so he directly picked up the phone and called Zhou Fanshu. Fanshu, come to my study on the 2nd floor, hurry up. Hong Ruiting asked, Uncle Lu, what are you? What this is, that's right, you young people are just ink. I'll tell you later, just shut up. Li Yuan waited for less than a minute before Zhou Fanshu came in. Uncle Lu, what's the matter with calling me? Li Yuan said seriously, in view of the situation between you and Ruiting, what I mean is that I am going to let you two get married first. If you get the certificate, you can make up for it later. Zhou Fanshu. What? Do you have any objection? Zhou Fanshu said, my opinion is too big. Then keep your opinion, and the matter is settled. Li Yuan also didn't listen to Zhou Fanshu's excuses, but informed her. It's been 2 years since Hong Ruiting was harmed, so don't even think about defaulting on your debt. Zhou Fanshu was anxious, she wanted to experience college life for 2 more years. So he said, I'm only a sophomore. Li Yuan, what happened to my sophomore year? When I was a sophomore, I had a child. Jiangshu was my child during my sophomore year. I won't do it. I'll go back to find my mother. It's useless for you to look for anyone, I have the final say on this matter. Zhou Fanshu was completely anxious, Dad, don't force me. Zhou Fanshu usually doesn't dare to call him Dad, after all, Zhou Ranran is very strict. I was obviously pushed into a hurry today. Li Yuan said, who forced you? Isn't this your own choice? Grandpa Hong Ruiting is in poor health, and it seems that he has only a few years to live. Haven't you been waiting for Ruiting to get married? You have been occupying my family for so many years. It's so cheap, why don't you show your filial piety? Hong Dadu in the back village felt inexplicably that someone was strangling his fate. Someone was definitely cursing him. And there are very few people left in the village who dare to curse him. The person most likely to curse him is Li Yuan. Zhou Fanshu said, I can fulfill my filial piety. I went to visit his old man on the first day I came home from vacation. Those are all trivial things. Marriage is the high road. Zhou Fanshu, but Ruiting and I have nothing now. We are just college students. Our monthly living expenses are only 5,000 yuan. How can we live after we get married? Besides, Ruiting has younger brothers and sisters, and we don't even have a house. In the future, after graduation, I don't even know how to find a job. What if I have another child? What will happen to the whole family? So what I want is to wait until we find a job after graduation and get married in 2 or 3 years. Li Yuan, it's so stable. At that time, the grass on Grandpa Hong Ruiting's grave was 3 meters high. Hong Dadu. Li Yuan continued, isn't it just a house? Over at Tianlan Villa, I will give you a villa, not far from the village. Zhou Fanshu added, the villa is useless. We can't even afford property expenses with our salary. After all, it's your rule that the monthly living expenses during college cannot exceed 5,000. What's the point? When you two get married, I'll send you some gifts and you can sell them off as you like. Besides, who doesn't make money when they get married? All they get is you and your wife. Zhou Fanshu still looked unwilling and said, what if we have children? If we have children, our studies will definitely be delayed. Finding a job in the future will also be a big problem. Someone has to take care of the children at home, right? And we are newbies, so both of us may be in a hurry, and then our lives will be a mess. After graduation, my family will receive a subsidy. What should I be afraid of? I won't starve to death if I don't have a job. After graduation, Li Yuan no longer restricted families from giving their children pocket money. He could give millions at will, which would be better than working for 10 years. How much money can 2 fresh graduates earn? Dad, it is true that we will never die of hunger, but we also want a better life. Once the opportunity to study and develop our abilities is delayed because of this matter, we will only be able to live an ordinary life in the future. I don't want that. Li Yuan, when the time comes, I will subsidize you two with 500 million yuan. Will your life be luxurious enough? Zhou Fanshu pursed his lips, what you are subsidizing is dead money after all. Who knows whether the currency will depreciate in the future? Maybe 500 million is only enough to buy a steamed bun? Only by yourself can you ensure that your family can survive. Li Yuan smiled and said, okay, after Ruiting graduates, I will go to Qingtian capital for an internship. I will be responsible for small projects first, and then I will be responsible for big projects after passing the assessment. As soon as this promise came out, Zhou Fanshu said with a smile, thank you, Dad. Then I will go back and tell Mom, and say that I took the initiative to get married, just say that I am pregnant. Okay. Then I'll leave first and come back later for dinner. Zhou Fanshu went downstairs with a smile. Hong Ruiting sat there confused. Li Yuan looked at him and asked, don't you know about this? Hong Ruiting, what's the matter? You're still pretending. You two are playing a double act for me here, aren't you? Hong Ruiting immediately lowered his head and muttered, just say it's unreliable, I have to come. On weekdays at school, Hong Ruiting was not so naughty. But when he came back, Zhou Fanshu suddenly had an idea and asked him to cooperate. The purpose is of course to ask Li Yuan for a house and a job. Otherwise, no matter how much the family gives, for both of them, it will not be their own career. That money is fixed and far less secure than what you can earn by yourself. Zhou Fanshu's series of operations successfully gave Hong Ruiting the opportunity to join Qingtian capital. Except for Li Yuan, no one else dared to open this hole. If no one else comes in and Hong Ruiting performs particularly well, he will basically be the next helmsman of Qingtian capital. Guo Meng is already in his 50s and cannot stay in that position for a few more years. Guo Meng's children are not capable of taking over, and Li Yuan will not let Guo Meng's children take over. Just like Gu Dongshen's children will not succeed Nanshan Group, he cannot let the various industries form deep-rooted relationships, which will one day get out of control. When he was alive, everything was fine. When he died, he fell apart overnight. Not only was Li Yuan not angry at Zhou Fanchu's carefulness, but he was also very pleased. Because he really didn't realize Zhou Fanchu's conspiracy at the beginning, and it was only in the end that Zhou Fanchu lacked a little patience and exposed the flaw. This idea didn't come from Hong Ruoding, it was most likely Zhou Fanchu's own initiative. He is happy to see a child challenge him, even if he is tricked, it shows that he is powerful and he is willing to hand over anything. But, Li Yuan felt that there must be Zhou Ranran behind Zhou Fanchu. Zhou Ranran had rarely taken the initiative to do anything in these years, but now that he was taking the initiative to reach out, he was probably also preparing for Zhang Shu's incident. The heat has indeed arrived. The talent pool of this generation is already considerable, and the next generation is already on the way. During lunch, Li Yuan went to invite Hong Dadu and Hong Ruoding's father. Zhou Ranran naturally came over, and the two parties discussed their marriage. Mainly based on Li Yuan's opinion, Li Yuan said that if he wants to get married tomorrow, then tomorrow is a good day, and the whole village will start preparations. After dinner, the day was decided, it was the 8th day of the first lunar month. The Hong family will start preparations soon. Ruoding, on New Year's Eve, come over with your dad to attend the meeting. Li Yuan gave Hong Ruoding one final warning. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 400. On New Year's Eve, Li Jingcheng came back with Yao Shanshan. Yao Yingsong and Wang Qi did not come back, not even on the second day of the Lunar New Year. After all, Yao Yingsong is very busy now and has completely settled in the capital. Even Wang Qi's identity is relatively sensitive, so Li Yuan doesn't let her move around at will. It can be said that Yao Yingsong has reached this point without any support. The next few years will be very important for him. Li Yuan did nothing but help him the most. Li Jingcheng and Yao Shanshan met a few times before they got married. However, the marriage was voluntary and was not forced by anyone. Zhang Yuling was very happy. She was originally angry at her second son's decision, but she was afraid of comparison. After all, Li Jingcheng was still a part of the family. After all, he could still go home during the New Year, even if he could only stay home for a short 2 or 3 days. Where is that bastard Zhang Shu? Can't stay a day, won't even make a phone call this year. She was so angry with her eldest son. The second son who was angry before has turned into a sensible and well-behaved figure. After all, she knew exactly what her eldest son was going to do and what her second son was going to do. The second son is to be the bridge between Li Yuan and Yao Yingsong. This bridge does not need to be very strong. The eldest son wants to break away from this relationship and start a new business. You have to be careful in everything you do, and the difficulties are unprecedented. So after Li Jingcheng came over, the smile on Zhang Yuling's face never stopped, and he was completely different from before. Zhang Yuling is really not interested in his youngest daughter Lu Ling. The reason is that the older Lu Ling gets, the more disobedient she becomes and her academic performance is extremely poor. She once wondered if she had hugged her wrongly in the hospital. How could his and Li Yuan's children be so bad? Li Yuan is different. He is willing to let his children be mediocre. Having character is not a bad thing, but his future son-in-law cannot be too powerful. Even with his status, it is easy to find an excellent son-in-law, but for his daughter, if it is not true love, it will be a lifetime of torture. Anyway, he was very satisfied with Zhang Shu. He already has a solid foundation for the second generation and won't be any worse. There will be no problem taking over. He worries about the third generation. After lunch on New Year's Eve, many people started to get busy. The villa that was originally empty was full of people coming and going. decorate the venue, prepare tea, and even prepare supper. Li Yuan also came over to join in the fun after dinner, because Gu Dongsheng and his group started a game. Specially designed to catch Yu Yu, the one who was taken advantage of. After all, no one in the whole village was more relaxed than Yu Yu. This guy can make over $1 billion a year just by lying down every day. For people of Gu Dongshen's generation, more than $1 billion is not much. Security team captains like Chen Qi are worth more than 10 billion. Ho Wenbin and others have hidden their wealth, but if they want to move it, everyone can take out tens of billions in cash. But who knows how easy it is to make money? He basically just keeps his name on Qingtian Group's affairs. At such an old age, there is not much work for him to do, so he can wait peacefully for retirement. Just from his salary at Qingtian Group, he has almost earned tens of billions over the years. However, the taxes are also relatively heavy. According to him, paying taxes is an honor. What he calls glory is the 1% equity dividend of Qingtian Group. With that kind of dividend, as long as he doesn't come to work for a big job, he will basically not be able to finish it in a few lifetimes. When he has money, he must spend it. He gets hundreds of millions in cash every year, and he will take out whatever is left at the end of the year. Forget it if you lose. If you win, there is no need to think about this thing, because he has never won. When Li Yuan came over, there was an exaggerated pile of cash around Yu Yu that was as tall as one person. He said, "Old Yu, you have saved money this year, how come you still have so much left?" Yu Yu said with a smile, "Isn't it because you can't buy good products? The boss doesn't like ordinary things. Damn, you're losing my relationship with my money. No wonder you don't feel bad at all." Li Yuan also sat down, and Gu Dongsheng hurriedly dealt him a card. It's even better to have Li Yuan join him. He's just like Yu Yu and loses faster. He will definitely win 1/3 of the 30 million tonight, and the remaining 2/3 will be divided up by Ho Wenbin and the others. Who doesn't want cash? Yu Yu, a bastard, doesn't know where he can get so much cash. They don't dare to withdraw any cash on weekdays. After all, the company has various debts and the bank will not withdraw it at all. Even in an era of complete electronicization, cash still plays an irreplaceable role. Almost all the village's cash reserves were covered by Yu Yu. They are too lazy to go to the bank to withdraw millions or tens of millions. Transferring 10 billion is easier than withdrawing 5 million in cash. Li Yuan plays cards just like Yu Yu. After the cards are dealt, he stops looking and throws money into them like crazy. Smash as many as you can, but they won't open anyway. On weekdays, Yu Yu finally stopped arguing with Li Yuan and took the initiative to open the cards. But today, there was something unexpected. Yu Yu didn't open either. Gu Dongsheng, Ho Wenbin, and others were all a little confused. More than money? Who the hell can be better than you two? One can withdraw tens of millions in cash at will, while the other has no idea how much money he has, and is afraid that the money printing machine will be contracted by him. There is no other way. In the end, even if they have great cards, they have no money to continue investing. The cards were relatively stiff. Yu Yu waved his hand and said, "Who wants cash? I still have it at home." Gu Dongsheng said, "Give me 5 million, I don't believe how long you can hold on." "Haha, okay, who else wants it? I'll have someone pull them over." "Pull, pull, pull. I will fight with you today." Half an hour later. Facts have proved that no one really has more money than Yu Yu and Li Yuan. Gu Dongsheng was the first to throw away the cards in his hand and said, "Damn it, no more playing, you two are cheating and fooling around." A few other people ran away midway, and they really didn't have any cash to throw inside. Usually they play a few hands with each other to determine who has the biggest cards, and then compare with you. As a result, now the two families do not look at the cards, and there is no way to compare. Yu, haha, let me see the cards. When Yu was looking at the cards, he came over to see a lot of eyes. Be good. What kind of bullshit luck is this? Lao Gu, how did you deal the cards? No one said what kind of card Yu was, but it was said. As a result, the next second, Yu threw away the card in his hand and said, "This card is too small, I guess I can't beat the boss." Gu Dongsheng and others were stunned immediately. They took the cards and said, "Lao Yu, you are still acting like a licking dog at the card table. You don't want it? Sell me these cards." Yu said nonchalantly, "Whatever, I won't ask you for money." Everyone felt that Yu deliberately let Li Yuan win money. After all, he had a genuine flush in his hand, and theoretically the probability of getting it was smaller than that of a bomb. But according to the rules, it's not as big as a bomb. Normally, cards that are neither big nor small are lost if they are lost, but this time, what Yu did was really outrageous. Although the money was not put on the table, the total amount exceeded 200 million. Earning this little money from Li Yuan is nothing. He has lost more than 200 million even if he loses all his hair. Li Yuan said with a smile, "You can accept the cards. Let's each take out 50 billion to play the cards. If I win, I will give you 50 billion. If I lose, you will give me 50 billion. Is it such a big deal?" For Gu Dongsheng, it's not that it's impossible to get it, but it's not necessary. Being here today is purely for entertainment. Judging from the situation of the people in the village, who would get angry for hundreds of thousands of dollars. But 50 billion is different. I feel really bad if I lose. Even if they believe they will never lose. If you don't have any money, just go aside. Or you guys here can chip in. Anyway, if you win, you'll share it equally. Damn, I have such a bad temper. Gu Dongsheng directly showed his cards and said, 678 straight gold, I will pay 10 billion, who wants the remaining 40 billion? Do you suspect Li Yuan is cheating? That is impossible. The cards were dealt by Gu Dongsheng, but Li Yuan never touched the cards from beginning to end. How can this be worth $1,000? Li Yuan is so outrageous. Several people who had never seen the cards before were all excited at this time. Damn it, I'll add 1 billion. Thank you Mr. Li for the pocket money. 1 billion? So stingy. Li Yuan has made it clear that he wants to provide benefits to everyone. I will give you 3 billion. I'll come with 3 billion, too. People who weren't even at the table came to join in the fun. In less than 10 minutes, 50 billion was collected. Li Yuan drank a cup of tea, and after seeing everyone gathered, he said, "Okay, let's open it." Yu came over immediately and opened the first card to Li Yuan with a smile. Diamond 3. Second card. Club 3. Just about to get the third card. When Gu Dongsheng and the others saw the first two cards, they had a bad feeling. So Gu Dongsheng hurriedly said, "Wait a minute, I'll draw the third card." After he finished speaking, he directly pressed the third card, which Yu had never touched from beginning to end. Then, uncover. Spades 3. The crowd immediately exploded. This is so unscientific. Shunjin encountered a bomb, and it specifically appeared on U2. There is nothing so outrageous in the world. Li Yuan said with a smile, "Okay, just prepare the money honestly. I can also accept transfers. I will send you the card number tomorrow." 50 billion, for people like them, is also not a small amount. Although it is not much per capita, taking out 3 to 5 billion in cash will still reduce the cash flow in one's account by more than half. But the cards are here, and it really happened. The two guys who never opened their cards still had the biggest cards in their hands. Deadbeat. There is a huge advantage in defaulting on debts with Li Yuan. Not to mention 50 billion, even 500 billion, 5 trillion, it's not worth going back on the debt with Li Yuan. But some heartache is inevitable. Moreover, Li Yuan won all the cash at the scene, and then everyone had no money in their hands. This guy Li Yuan has won a lot of big games over the years. He occasionally won in the past, but he would eventually lose. His habit of playing cards means he is destined not to win. Lao Yu, help me send this cash to my house and let my dad take it. I'm leaving. After Li Yuan finished speaking, he stood up and left. The card game will definitely not go on because no one has any cash. After Li Yuan left, Yu was arranging for people to pretend to be rich, while the rest gathered around Gu Dongsheng. After all, the least one had lost 1 billion, they had never thought that they could lose so much in their lives. Lao Gu, you dealt me this card. I don't know how far I have to go to earn it back next year. Gu Dongsheng said helplessly, I still have the most to lose. Where can I reason with you? Damn, this deck of cards is really evil. Is there a possibility that Li Yuan got a fortune telling when he went out today? When everyone heard this, they all became horrified. Who doesn't know Li Yuan's prediction on December 31st, 2023, which will completely wipe out his little life? That is a figure recognized throughout the world as being able to communicate with gods. But since then, Li Yuan has stopped saying anything about hexagrams, and everyone has gradually forgotten that Li Yuan can be so good at it. If he told fortunes, it was really possible. You have to believe it even if you don't believe it, this is so damn evil. Why can't he bet 50 billion just by looking at the cards? This is what Li Yuan is holding back. Even if he wants to play with 100 billion, everyone will definitely accompany him to the end. After all, it is like free money. Gu Dongsheng said, I'll go ask him. After saying that, he also left the villa hall and found Li Yuan strolling at the end of the village. Li Yuan said with a smile, you are good at this. Gu Dongsheng, haha, it's just a little trick. From the beginning to the end, the play is performed by Li Yuan and Gu Dongsheng. Of course, Yu is also indispensable. It's nothing more than beating that group of people and not doing any small tricks behind their backs. Li Yuan will definitely accept the 50 billion this time, and it will be indispensable for the whole family. The group has grown bigger and bigger in recent years. Even if the relationship in the village is very harmonious and no one dares to have any second thoughts about Li Yuan, selfishness has long been rampant. Many people will inevitably make some small moves, which have not yet led to big mistakes, but as their ambitions become bigger and bigger, something will happen sooner or later. Gu Dongsheng said, after hearing that you could tell fortunes, they were all scared to compete. This tapping should be effective. Li Yuan said, actually, I am really good at fortune telling, but I'm just too lazy to use it on such trivial matters. Gu Dongsheng. Damn it, I just helped you beat someone else, you turn around and want to beat me. Even if you know how to tell fortunes, I'm not messing around in the company, so there's nothing wrong with me. Li Yuan saw that Gu Dongsheng didn't believe it, so he continued, 21 years later, when Zhang Shu is 45 years old, he will come back. Gu Dongsheng trembled all over. Really? Haha, it really can't be fake. Gu Dongsheng was silent for a while and said, then I will get married to Gu Man's mother after the year. It's Gu Yu. Good. Li Yuan smiled and said, remember to ask Gu Yu to come over for a meeting tonight. Tonight's meeting may be a bit long, and it can be considered the last meeting I will host. Do you really want to retire? Otherwise. I am over 40 years old, and more than half of my life has passed. Gu Dongsheng said, don't you know how to tell fortunes? Tell yourself a fortune. Li Yuan smiled slightly and did not answer. He had already figured it out for himself. Don't live a good life. He couldn't bear to die. he had to see the third generation get up and take a look at the fourth generation before he could leave with peace of mind. End of chapter.